is suing 33-year-old medical office manager Yolanda Reyes for filing false police charges. Yolanda says she filed charges after Duke threw a telephone at her. She's countersuing for mental anguish and pain and suffering.
Come to order. All rise. Now, this is case number 54 on the calendar in the matter of Cozad versus Reyes. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Cozad, you work as an attendant for someone who was ill. Is that right?
Yes, Judge Sheindlin.
And it is your claim that when you went to pick up some of this person's medical material at the doctor's office, you came in contact with the defendant, who was a receptionist. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And there was some sort of a dispute as to whether you had the right to pick up these records. And there were, according, I guess, to both of you, words exchanged. You left and was subsequently arrested and
There was no arrest, Your Honor.
Subsequently charged with assaulting the defendant, and you incurred a great deal of expense, lawyers' expenses, court expenses. Those charges were ultimately dismissed, according to you, and you are suing the defendant for malicious prosecution, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant says that you did, in fact, assault her, and she is counterclaiming for a variety of things as a result of that assault. So that's what this case is about. How long had you been working as an attendant, Mr. Cozad?
I've been living with the particular person involved for about, it'll be 9 years in November.
Is this an employee relationship?
No, Your Honor, we've just been roommates, and he has trouble with reading and writing, and so he assigned me power of attorney in 1998, which I have proof of.
Okay. What records did you want?
The results of a blood test called a PSA.
PSA is for usually for prostate cancer?
Yes, Judge.
Did you call the office first?
Yes, I did. She said that she could not provide me with the results over the phone, but asked me if I had power of attorney and stated that if I had brought it to the office, I could obtain the results.
So what did you do, sir?
I discussed this with Leonard, who said that due to the fact that his next appointment wasn't for 3 months, he'd like to have the results in a more timely fashion. I went to the office, presented Ms. Reyes with the power of attorney document, and asked for the PSA results. She asked me for a copy of the power of attorney form, which I provided her with, and she said she would like to place it in Mr. Park's file. I indicated that was my only copy, and that if she could just take a copy of the original and then give me the results. Then she said she wouldn't do that.
She wouldn't make a copy of the power of attorney?
Right. She handed me the form back, and then I stated to her if she didn't provide me with the results, I would call the police. And then she handed the phone receiver through the window to me and dialed the non-emergency number, which had an elaborate menu, and I asked her to press 0. And then she said, well, I'd have to go call the police somewhere else, and she took the phone away from me.
How did she do that?
She grabbed the coiled end of the cord that was attached to the base unit on her side of the wall and pulled on it. And I have in the police report that her colleague was there and stated that's what she did.
Okay. Now, what's the next thing that happened? You left.
No, I went downstairs to where the pharmacy was, and there's 2 payphones there. And I called the police a second time on the 911 number, at which time they told me that in between the 2 calls, Ms. Reyes had made a call. And did I throw a phone at her? And I told her no. Then I sat down to wait for the police, and her colleague, Ms. came down and sat right next to me and said that the whole...
Don't tell me what Ms. said. That's hearsay.
She sat next to me and talked with me for a while and said that if...
Don't tell me what she said.
Then she went back upstairs, and then 2 officers came. At the time, there was no arrest, and she wrote down some notes on a small pad.
Did you subsequently, sir, have to appear in court?
Yes, Your Honor, I had to appear 6 times.
Did you hire an attorney?
Yes, I did initially, Your Honor. I have the receipts and the description of the things that the attorney did for me.
Okay, and ultimately you then had to use a public defender?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did the case ever go to trial?
No, Judge. The case never went to trial. There was no arrest. The case was dismissed at the request of the DA.
Do you have a letter to that extent?
Yes, I do. And
okay. So what I would like to see first is the letter of dismissal from the district attorney. Then I would like to see your police reports, including the statement of Miss.
Your Honor, the police report also states that there were no marks or injuries
Just
upon...
a minute, I will read it. Don't tell me what it states. Reading was one of the first criteria that I had to pass for this job. So the district attorney decided not to prosecute this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, that's one thing. Well, this report from the police doesn't really bear out, sir, what you told me. He told me that he pulled the phone back and then threw it in the window towards the cradle. Kozad told me, I guess I wasn't as gentle with the phone as I could have been. He told me that when he threw the receiver, Reyes was near the back phone talking to someone, and he did not see the phone hit her.
Your Honor, I'd like to address that inconsistency, and the fact of the matter is that she was next to the phone because her colleague stated the same thing, that she was next to the phone.
The colleague, Miss, also said that you threw the phone.
Your Honor, what she perceived as throwing of the phone was due to the tension developed between me holding the handset and Miss Reyes holding the cord. I released the phone, and it went back through the window.
Kozad, according to Miss, pulled the phone back and then threw it through the window. That's what she says.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Duke Kozad says office manager Yolanda Reyes had him falsely arrested after he attempted to retrieve his friend's medical records. Yolanda says Duke threw a telephone at her.
She, that's Miss, went downstairs not to comfort you, sir, but to get the license, but to get the license plate number of your car. That's what she went down for.
Well, Your Honor, how would she know what kind of car I drive to do this?
I'm just telling you, there are inconsistencies here with the story that you tell.
Your Honor, the officer, while she did an exemplary job, was a trainee and made other inconsistent remarks on her report,
I'm just telling you,
too.
These are your reports. These are the reports you gave me.
The items in quote, I did say I wasn't as gentle with that phone as I could have been.
And you
Everything
said you
else
threw it.
is the officer's
And you threw
words.
it. And Ms. says you threw it. You asking me to look at Ms. statement. Ms. says that you threw the phone. That doesn't mean necessarily that it hit her, because nobody saw it hit her. And the police officer saw absolutely no bruising on her, nor marks, nothing. So I don't know whether you hit her or not. What makes you think, Miss Reyes, that it's against the law to turn over a patient's records to the patient?
Those are the rules, and I have a letter from the doctor.
I don't give a rat's tutu about... I don't give a rat's tutu about what the doctor's rules are. Doctor's rules are not law. You said to the police, according to policy and the law, patients' records are their records, and a patient wants the test results, and a patient's allowed to get the test results. Period. End of discussion. And if he's got a power of attorney, he stands in the same place as the patient. Right? That's one thing.
Yes.
So you were wrong. He had a power of attorney. Now, my next question to you is, I assume that in a medical office you have a fax machine or you have a copy machine. Is that right?
Yes.
Why didn't you volunteer to make a copy of his power of attorney?
I did. He got mad.
Wait just a minute. You said to him, nicely, when he came in, is that the power of attorney we talked about? I'll take it, let me make a copy and put it in the file.
Exactly
Is that what you said?
Exactly what I did.
Is that what you said?
She said, I'd like to place this in the patient's file, meaning the copy I had. I said, that's my only copy. Could you, I can't release this copy to you. I need to retain possession of this copy.
Did you ask her to make a copy of it?
I don't remember, Your Honor.
I don't know whether she said she had to make a copy or not, because when you got off the phone with her that morning, she was hell-bent on trying to contact the patient himself. So she called the patient, and you spoke to her on the phone and said, the patient's doing the laundry. He cannot come to the phone. Right?
I said he was out. I didn't say he couldn't come to the phone, Your Honor. I said he's outside doing the laundry.
That's exactly what I said. Mr. Kozad, let's not split hairs here, sir. So then you come down to the office after she has tried to get in touch with the patient, I assume to verify that, you know, it's okay to give you the record. She's not able to do that. So I don't think that you were...
Your Honor, she did know because I accompanied Mr. Park to the office on 2 previous occasions to fill out his forms.
I don't care. They don't want to get sued. They don't want to get sued by giving any of his medical history to somebody if they're not absolutely positive that that's what the patient wants, especially if you're not his guardian. You may have power of attorney. However, you had power of attorney that allows you, I assume, to get what you need. Let me just take a quick look at your power of attorney, sir. I'd like to see it. Claims and litigation, personal and family maintenance, benefits from Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and the military, retirement plan transactions, and tax matters. Nothing here says that you have the right to his medical records. You want to take a look at it again?
Your Honor, under item K, where it says benefits from Medicare, Medi-Cal, etc., Mr. Park paid for his doctor's visit with a Medi-Cal card.
Stretching! There's a difference between paying for with a Medicaid card, Medi-Cal card, check, or anything else. It doesn't give you the right to get his medical records.
I'm in error, Your Honor.
You were. So that if Ms. Reyes had given you these medical records, and if Mr. Parks had sued the doctor for turning over those medical records, they would have been unprotected. That's not to say that you hurt her. Now, Ms. Reyes, I would like you to tell me your version of what happened.
I got a call on September 21st around 9:30 in the morning from this gentleman here, Mr. Kozak. He told me, he explained to me, I've been reading an article in the paper in regards to the PSA, and I want to get Leonard's, test results. I said, well, first of all, I don't have that right. The doctor is the only one that can release that information to the patient. He said, well, I have power of attorney. I said, well, as soon as the doctor comes, I will have him call you and release that information to you. He got upset and he hung up. I gave it a few minutes to call the patient and let him know that doctor will give you a call and give them to you, and if you have any questions, you can have all your questions answered.
Okay.
When I called, he said, no, he's out doing laundry, and hung up on me. About an hour later, he shows up, very hostile, irate, demanding that I give him the test results of that PSA of our patient. I again told him, I can't release this information to you. The doctor needs to release this to you. I asked him to see the paperwork. He gave it to me. I proceeded to step just not even 5 feet behind me to the copy machine, and he started getting very hostile at the window.
What did he say?
He said, give me my paper back. No, I didn't say you can make a copy of it. Give it to me right now. He goes, I'm going to call the cops.
Go ahead.
I said, hold on. I gave him back the paperwork, called the police department, handed him the phone. I wasn't on the phone, so I don't know the prompts that you have to go through. And we had another call. There's another phone behind me, say maybe 8 feet at the other desk. And my medical assistant proceeded to get that call. She had a question regarding one of the patients that was calling.
So you walked over there?
No, I did not. I did not walk. I stood right here. Here's my desk. Here's the phone. Here's the window. I grabbed the phone, gave him the cord. He stood right at the window. And as I did that, he started getting irrational. Oh, well, I take back those comments that I made about you. I thought you were more intelligent and professional than this. And, I said, wait a minute here. I said, you really need to leave because we had 2 patients coming in. I told him,
You need to leave.
You need to leave and call, the cops somewhere else. I hung up the phone.
You pressed the button to hang up the phone.
To hang up the phone. I thought I was doing him a favor.
Whatever. You weren't doing him a favor.
He stepped a couple feet back, stretching the cord like an angry face, like just trying to break my phone, and then threw it at me, and it hit me here and here.
You were not injured, other than...
Just the phone just slamming me really hard from it going and him pulling it, because he caused it,
You didn't receive any medical treatment?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I did not.
Okay. But you decided to press charges against him?
Yes.
Tell me why.
For the mental anguish, because, after that day, of course, I left. I left my work. Yes, I did. I didn't come back for 2 days.
You were upset? Okay.
And I still proceed to
Your
lock
Honor,
the
she
door.
called her husband, who threatened me in the hallway of the medical office.
I'm not, just a second. Am I talking to you?
No, Judge.
Go ahead. You left that day. Now, what kind of harassment do you say you've suffered since then?
Physically, the public defender came into our office like 5 times trying to tell me we could settle this out of court right now while we have patients, no consideration for the doctor's business at all.
That can't be attributed to him.
And
His lawyer, that the public defender, sometimes they get a little bit overzealous.
Oh,
Remember
I
those?
understand. They're
Remember
doing their
those?
job, but I
Little
mean...
bit overzealous. You know, so he comes to your office and he figures he'll make a pest out of himself. You'll say, forget it.
And on the 28th, his brother called me and insisted that I release the chart to him. He said, I'm coming from the airport right now and I'm going to get that chart. I said, no, you cannot come to the office.
You can't attribute that to him either. By the way, did the brother come to the office?
No, we told him not to, and I called the police, and it's stated in here also.
Okay. What else? What other harassment?
Other than just not feeling safe at my place of work, wondering if he's going to walk in, because an hour later he walked through the door.
That only happened once, is that right?
But he's called, yes.
I've never called.
The once that he showed up in the office to get the medical records was this one day that this happened. Is that right? All right, your counterclaim's dismissed. Now let's get to your claim. A, Mr. Kozad, you did not have a power of attorney to get medical records. At least on its face, there are certain specified things that you are enabled to do as a result of the power of attorney, and getting medical records is not one of them. So you were wrong to go there and to confront Ms. Reyes with regard to those medical records, because she would have been negligent had she given you those medical records. I find that by your own statement to the police immediately after this incident occurred, you threw the phone at the defendant.
I never said that, Your Honor. Those were Officer's words.
You gave me the report. That was what other officer reported immediately after this incident.
Incorrect, Your Honor. That report wasn't written for 2 days subsequent to the event itself.
This is 9 months later, sir. And 9 months later, your memory is not as fresh as what happened as it is 2 days later. Mr. Kozad, I'm making my ruling now. This is not the time to argue. You, whether you threw the phone at Miss Reyes and hit her, or threw the phone at Miss Reyes, and even if it missed her, that is either an assault or an attempted assault. And I find that you did, in fact, throw that phone through the window, so that she had a right to pursue her remedy and be a complainant in a case. Now, the fact that the prosecutor's office determined, put your hand down, not to prosecute you because they have better things to do, does not mean that the incident did not happen. Certainly, I don't believe that this was a malicious prosecution. You acted badly that day. She tried to do the right thing. She did, in fact, call the patient to try to get in touch with the patient after she spoke to you. I believe that you did hang up on her when she called, that you went to the office, you went with a faulty document. She refused to give you those records. She had an absolute right to do that. You got angry, you threw the phone at her, and she had you either arrested or charged. That is her right as a citizen, and your lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
How does that
The district
excuse me?
attorney would have came today. The district attorney, Deputy Will...
Trinity Keiger is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old climate control installer Michael Hunter, for an unpaid loan to move into a sober living house. Michael says he paid back the loan by doing chores.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 7 on the calendar in the matter of Keiger versus Hunter.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Keiger, according to your complaint, while you were in a relationship with the defendant, you made a loan to him, a couple of $100s.
Yes.
When did you make him this loan, and what for?
On January 30th, I received my income tax return. And he was at my house. He had gotten kicked out of his residential drug facility. And after a week of being at my house, he had the option from his parole officer to either go back to the treatment facility or go into clean and sober living. And so he asked me to borrow the $200.
Well, what's the difference between a drug program and the clean and sober living?
He had more freedom in Pancho Villa than he would in the residential treatment facility.
What were you on parole for?
Residential burglary.
What was the condition of your parole?
That I'd have to say in either a residential treatment program or a sober living home.
So why didn't you stay in the residential drug program?
Because I got kicked out of the residential
Why?
program. For sneaking out to see her.
And for drinking. Don't let him tell you that. It's for drinking also.
No, Your Honor. That's a lie right there. You can call the program and ask. Says, no, I've never given a dirty test since I've been out of prison.
They don't give urine tests for alcohol.
Yes, they do, ma'am. You can call my parole officer and ask him. I cannot drink or be around alcohol, and they test me for alcohol at the parole office and at the program.
Mike, that's why you were drunk at my house moving me.
Okay, did she give you $200?
Yes, Your Honor. She offered me $200.
Okay, tell me about the $200. You
She
wanted to
offered
go
me-
into this.
Offered?
other-
I have 2 kids.
Listen to me. When I look in your direction, that's when you talk.
All right.
And I'm looking in his direction. Now tell me under what circumstances you say she gave you the $200.
She gave me the $200 knowing that I just got out of prison.
Don't tell me what knowing. I don't want to hear knowing.
Okay,
What did you say to her? What did she say to you? You said to her, I need $200 in order to go into this other program, and I don't have it.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. And she said to you,
She said to me that you can borrow the $200, but I would have to help her pay it back. She knew that I did not have a job.
just don't tell me what she knew.
Okay.
She said you would help her pay it back. Pay it back to whom?
Pay it back to her.
All right, let's make this simple, Mr. Hunter. She said that you could borrow the money, but that you would have to pay it back.
Most definitely.
Am I looking in your direction?
If you
Am
would
I
let-
looking in your direction?
No.
Don't speak unless I look in your direction. She said you could borrow the money
Correct.
and you would have to pay it back.
Not correct.
That's what you just told me.
I have to pay it back, but not in cash. I was to help her move, watch her kids, pick her kids up at school several times, which I did, take her friend, which is over there to Fairfield, to see a friend of hers that's in the county jail, fix her car, and that pretty much cleared up all the money issue.
When did you help her move?
I forget the exact date that she moved. You remember the exact date?
No, don't ask her any questions.
Okay.
If I want to know from her, I'd ask her.
I forget the exact date.
Before or
that she
after
moved.
she gave you the $200?
This was before she moved.
Just a second. Listen to me very carefully, because I know that you have a little trouble understanding, sir. Did you help her move before or after she gave you the $200?
I just answered your question the same way.
That she
Yes.
moved before.
She gave me the money before I helped her move. That's exactly what I said. She gave me the money, and then I helped her move
When did you go into this new program?
after she moved. I don't have the exact date, Your Honor.
I know the exact date.
Give me the date.
Here, I cashed my check on my income tax check on 1/30/01. That is the day that he moved into Pancho Villa. I moved on February 2nd. That was not the agreement.
Just a second. What date did he move into the facility?
January 30th.
The same day that you gave him the money.
I took him there.
So you were living in the program on the day she moved.
No, at the program that I was at, I didn't have to stay there every day. I can go out, come and go pretty much as I
Did
want.
he help you move?
Yes, he did help me
Okay,
move.
tell me what he did.
He helped take 2 loads of stuff to my house.
Okay, what else did you do for her?
I put all of her kids' beds together, picked her kids up from school. She actually had put my name down at her kids' school as a person to be able to pick up her kids in emergency,
Okay.
Yeah.
and picked up her kids several times. And also took her friend down to Fairfield. The lady sitting over there took her friend down to Fairfield to the county jail to see her friend.
He's lying.
Okay, what did I tell you?
Okay.
There was a period of time when you lived with the plaintiff, is that right?
Correct.
When was that?
That was in the month of January.
The entire month of January?
No.
I'm going to throw you out. Do you understand?
All right.
Next time, we're not talking about a lot of money. It would be very easy for me to say goodbye to you. You got it? Mm-hmm. During the entire month of January?
No, only about a week and a half to 2 weeks.
Let's say 2 weeks. And you slept there?
Correct.
You ate there?
Actually, I had some money of my own. So I had my gate money from when I left
How
school. I
much
went
money?
and bought my own food.
How much money?
They gave me $200 gate money.
You mean when they threw you out of the program, they gave you
No,
$200?
when they kicked me out of prison.
They didn't
I had
kick
that.
you out of prison.
Yeah, I mean, when
You
I got
wanted to
released from
stay?
prison, I'm sorry.
You wanted to stay in prison? Huh?
No.
You wanted to stay in prison?
No.
How much money did you give her towards rent in those 2 weeks?
During those 2 weeks, I helped her clean up around the house because I was
Answer
buying my own food and
answer my
buying food for them.
question, sir. I want the question answered. How much money did you give her towards rent when you were living there?
Nothing.
When you went to pick up her children on those couple of occasions, did you use her car?
Correct.
Did you ever use her car for your own personal business?
No, I did not.
Did he ever use your car for his own personal business?
Yes, he did.
Of course he did.
Yes, he did.
Where did he go?
He went to the parole officer.
Of course he did. He had to go in and check in periodically with the parole officer. And how did you get there, sir?
I would take the bus.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I
Ow.
did.
Oh, no.
I would hop on BART and take BART and then catch the 80
of
bus
course you did.
to Vallejo.
Are you telling me, sir, that you never took her car to go and visit your parole officer?
No, I did not. I got bus vouchers from my parole officer to use.
Really?
Yes.
Very interesting.
She wouldn't allow me to use her car for personal purposes.
Really? That doesn't sound like it was very generous of her.
Well, there's a lot of things that don't sound very generous.
So
about
why
her.
didn't you,
can call
what'd
my
you stay
parole
there
officer.
for 2 weeks for?
Well, as she says, the sex was good, pretty much, is why she let me stay there. And
Really?
it was. I was down 22 months, and I stayed there for the same reason.
Really, so you had it all stored up? Right, is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Not.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Trinity Kiger says ex-boyfriend Michael Hunter owes her for an unpaid loan and the return of 2 CDs.
Not.
And also, can I be allowed to say something about her character? You
No,
can call
I
my
don't want to
parole
hear
officer.
anything about her character. I
Well,
hear
I
enough
believe
about your
I
character.
believe it's very important to deal with this case. Something that you can verify by calling my parole officer and find out.
I'll hear you.
Okay. The night that we broke up, she came down and had my old roommate let both of these 2 in. She came in and punched my new girlfriend in the nose, smacked me around 10 times. The only reason I didn't call the police and press charges is because she had threatened to say that I had beat her up, put bruises on her, and file a domestic violence case against me.
Now, this is very interesting. You're supposed to be in a
sober
clean and
living home.
sober program, and you're living with a new girlfriend.
No.
How did that come about?
My new girlfriend was over visiting
Visiting where?
at the sober living home.
Okay. When? Give me the date.
My parole officer would have the date because I went there
I'm
the very
asking
next
you
day.
the date.
I told her I don't have
How
the
much
exact date.
after? How much after she gave you the $200?
This was probably about a month and a half, 2 months.
Well, if she gave you the money, sir, sometime in, let's say, the end of January.
I believe
It had-
sometime in March.
Well, that's just a few weeks afterwards
No,
that you had a new
that's about,
girlfriend.
like I said,
4
about a month,
weeks,
a month and a
5
half.
weeks?
About,
Yeah.
I'd say about 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks.
And when did you get the new girlfriend? That she,
I started a job working at Walmart, and I found a woman there that was actually
Nicer to you.
treated me a lot better.
when did you start the job at Walmart?
I started it when I first got there to that program, so it was in February. I started that there.
And so you found somebody else right away?
No, like I said, it was about 5 to 6 weeks that I
You're
actually
a
started
sleazy
talking.
character. Pay her back a $200. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank
Parties
you.
are excused. You may step out.
When she came down and smacked me around in the face 10 times and hit my girlfriend in the nose, everything right then and there, any chances of me ever paying her back would have been out.
Then he thought because he was, you know, having sex with me that was gonna cure the problem, and it didn't.
And now the next case.
All parties on Mills versus Trelfa. Step forward, please.
23-year-old customer service rep Jason Mills is suing 38-year-old business owner Karen Trelfa for damage to his snowmobile resulting from a collision. Karen is countersuing for damage to her snowmobile, claiming the accident was Jason's fault.
Mr. Mills, you were on an outing and you were what is it called?
Snowmobiling.
Snowmobiling. And it is your claim that the defendant, who was also snowmobiling, had an accident and plowed into your snowmobile, which was in a stationary position.
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant says that you and your party created a dangerous situation. She's an experienced snowmobiler, and she wants you to pay for the damage to her snowmobile. Right?
Correct.
Okay. So tell me when this happened.
Well, on February 11th, 2001, we had rented a snowmobile. We were sledding with four total sleds, 6 individuals on the sleds. We had stopped on the far right of the trail, off of the groomed path, onto the powder. I saw the defendant and her husband, whose sled was in front of hers, coming at us at a high rate of speed. Within a milliseconds of his passing through his powder, I saw the defendant's sled sliding toward us. She made impact with us. I was thrown from the sled, landed on my neck.
You were sitting on the sled.
I was standing directly next to my sled. I was the only person standing at the time. Everyone else was still sitting on their sleds facing forward. I was thrown up, landed on my neck. Anita was thrown from the sled and landed in a snowbank. The impact was severe enough to throw her boot from her body. If you look where the other sleds were parked, Mrs. Trelfa ended up toward the first and second sled. She made impact at the rear of our sled, slid down the trail. Now, immediately after, Mrs. Trelfa did come and immediately check to see if we were okay. Mr. Trelfa, of course, was worried about the condition of the sled.
What did he say?
Well, he acknowledged that her sled was pretty much trashed. Our sled, the damage was pretty severe. The frame itself was bent. I believe when you see the photographs, the frame on her sled is severely damaged. The
Do
top.
you have photographs?
Yes, I do. Would you like to see them?
Please.
That is her sled. This is my sled.
Is hers.
The red colored portion of her sled was actually detached upon impact. It's just laying on.
Step up, sir. When did you realize that your wife had been in an accident?
After coming to a stop, after avoiding these people, there was people in snowmobiles parked in the trail, and I had to actually go around them on the left, up
Yes.
on the berm off the groomed section to go around them, and that is where I came to a stop.
What was the reason, sir, that you stopped your snowmobile?
Because I realized that there was an accident waiting to happen, an accident in progress, and my wife was
Well, how
probably
could you
getting
tell
hurt.
there was an accident in progress?
I turned around.
Sit down, sir. Okay, let me hear your version of this accident.
We were traveling from this direction down the trail. When I came over the hill, I noticed 4 snowmobiles parked along the right-hand side. There were people on this side and people on this side of the trail. My husband went to the left, which is off the
Just a
trail.
second.
This line.
You see stupid written here?
No, I don't, ma'am.
Then you explain to me what possible rationale there would be to park the snowmobiles on one side and then for the people to be standing on the other side, not near their snowmobiles. You explain that to me.
Well, it does not practice safe snowmobiling procedure.
Of course it wouldn't. It would practice somebody
Your
being on
Honor, I
drugs.
can- Your
Leave
Honor,
their
I can help with
snowmobiles
this.
on one side. Now I could see if you put them near where their snowmobiles were and you say that they were on the trail. But why would somebody get off their snowmobile, leave it on one side of the road, and walk over to the other side of the road? Why would somebody do that?
I don't know
Answer it.
why they chose to. I would assume that they were taking photographs.
But your husband made it.
Which,
Your husband made it.
yes, he did. And when he went to this side, this person here ran across the front of the trail, which is where I was headed.
Go ahead.
I couldn't go right behind him. I would have be going too fast, and I would have ended up possibly hitting him because he was in some very deep snow and had stopped very quickly. So I had tried to get between this person and this snowmobile. He must have startled this person, and they ran across the trail. So I grabbed my handlebars and turned them sideways in order to turn my snowmobile so that I either flipped it before I got to this person or at least did not hit this person nose first and really throw them.
Your Honor, I don't know how she could claim that she saw people on the far left side of the trail, especially since I am the only person who was standing next to a sled at the time of impact.
Where were the other people?
They were still on their sleds.
According to your answer, you've been snowmobiling for 30 years. Is that right?
12 years.
12 years.
We do almost 3,000 miles a winter, so almost
Okay.
30,000 miles.
And is this area that you were snowmobiling in well-traveled?
Yes,
A lot of people there?
yes,
Sometimes experienced,
yes,
sometimes not.
yes,
Their bikes were stationary when you hit them?
yes.
You're responsible.
No, ma'am.
Period. Oh, yes, you are. Oh, yes, even if I believe you, and I don't believe a lot of what you told me, nobody would leave their snowmobile in the middle of the road and go
They
and
were
take
not in the
pictures.
middle.
The middle of the road and go take pictures.
They were not in the middle.
Right. So if they were not in the middle and you are a 12-year experienced veteran, you're supposed to be cautious.
And I was.
You're supposed to be cautious. No, if you were cautious, you wouldn't hit them.
I was 100 feet from the line of sight. They were in a very limited visibility area.
Then you're supposed to be more careful.
I was traveling at a very safe rate of speed.
Well, how could you be traveling at a safe rate of speed causing this damage?
They trapped the area and enclosed it.
I don't believe that that's true. I don't believe that they created the kind of hazardous situation that you attribute to them. Maybe some of these sleds weren't totally off the road. Maybe some of them were hanging over a little bit. But you've got a counterclaim. You want them to pay for your sled. You hit them. And you don't know who it was who ran across the road. If you claim somebody ran across the road creating a hazardous situation, it certainly wasn't him. He got
No, it
thrown
was
from his
her.
bike.
It was her.
Oh, you mean you remember that?
Yes. And if he was the only one that was standing next to the trail, how did she get between me and their snowmobile that was to the right of me?
I don't know. What?
Now, is she claiming that I was on the other side of this trail and running across?
Yes.
Well, if that is the case, how was I thrown from my snowmobile and into the snowbank?
Were you on the snowmobile with him?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and he was standing?
Yes.
And you were sitting on
I
the
was
side?
sitting on the back of the sled.
I don't know how she can claim that. Where were the rest of the people?
They were all on their sleds, sitting on their sleds.
Sounds more right to me. You hit his snowmobile while his snowmobile was in a stationary position, period. His snowmobile, according to you, was well on the side of this road, and there was plenty of room for you to pass. Your husband had passed. There was plenty of room
Except
for you
for
to
the
pass.
people stepped out into the
I don't-
trail.
Listen, that happens. I don't believe it was her. She says she was sitting on the snowmobile. It's possible that somebody else ran out. You have to anticipate that. That's not his job to anticipate it. That's your job to anticipate it because you're moving.
I agree.
Good. Then you have to pay for his damage. Judgment for the plaintiff for $1,245, which is what it's going to take to fix the snowmobile. You count the claims dismissed. Thank you.
As Jeannie Dent is suing her son, 19-year-old salesperson Brandon Bowen, for the value of a car she helped him buy. Brandon is countersuing also for the value of the car.
Order. All rise. Yes, case number 138 on the calendar in the matter of Dent versus Bowen. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, folks. Have seats.
All right, this is a strange little tale. Let me see if I can put it in perspective. Miss Dent, the defendant is your son.
Yes.
According to your complaint, there came a time when he wanted to buy a car. You thought it was a good deal. You paid for the car with the understanding that he would pay you back.
Yes.
At the time that the car was purchased, he did not have a driver's license, and the car was not supposed to be driven. It is your claim he did not pay you for the car. To make a long story a little bit shorter, anyway, there came a time when your son was incarcerated. He says that when he was released from jail, that he delivered by messenger a money order. You have not cashed the money order. In the meantime, he says that you made arrangements for the police to be involved. The police impounded the car. There were impound fees of almost $900. So you're suing him for the cost of the car. He's suing you for the cost of the car, plus the impound fees. Is that pretty much the story?
Pretty much.
Now, when was the car purchased?
It was March 3rd was the day that he called me, and it was indeed a good deal.
How much was the car?
When he called me on the phone, it was $100. When I got there, it had gone up to $150 after I had come back from the bank.
$150?
Right.
Is that what you paid for the car?
No, I paid $120.
Well, could somebody explain to me why then you people have filed a lawsuit? You want $1,500 for this car?
Well, that's the value of the car.
Get that out of your head. You paid $120. That's what he was supposed to pay you back. Is that right?
Right.
Did you pay your mother back?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
Show me. Your husband received payment for the car, money order. Why didn't you cash it?
My boyfriend received that.
Boyfriend?
Yeah, and I wasn't home at the time.
Do you live there?
Yes.
Why didn't you cash the money order?
Because he didn't make me aware of it. The first I knew that there was a money order there was the day the police showed up to my house when he was claiming auto theft.
You mean you don't speak to your boyfriend?
Well, I work, he goes to school. There are days when we don't have words, yeah.
Well, but now you know about it, so where's the money order?
I have it.
Well, why don't you cash it then? You would have been paid. Now you know that he paid you on time.
Because there's a lot more to the story than that.
Just a minute. One thing at a time. He paid, as a matter of fact, the money order was for $151. So cash the money order and then you've been paid. That was your agreement with him, correct?
Right.
Fine.
He was supposed to pay for that car by April 2nd. It was to stay at my house parked. He had stolen license plates from Mike's Pinto and had put them on this car so he could drive it.
Well, that was terrible.
It was.
You shouldn't have done that.
Your Honor.
You shouldn't have driven the car. You had no license.
That's right.
Right?
Correct.
So, and that breached your agreement with your mother, right?
No, actually, my mother gave me permission to borrow the car.
Listen to me.
I'm sorry.
You have no license. Your mother cannot grant dispensation from state law, which says you require a license to drive. So there may be a lot more to it, but bottom line is, you lent him money for the car. That's what you were suing him for, not $1,500, because that's not what the car cost. And he's paid you.
So,
So you got your money back. Cash the money order.
Your Honor.
Now let's get to your counterclaim.
I think it's pertinent to address the issue of this whole reason she kept the car came and took the car from me and kept it. I got out of jail May 30th. The money wasn't originally due until April 2nd. She took the car, knew I didn't get paid until April 1st, took the car because I came forward and confessed that I knew that she asked me to help her plant drugs on my stepfather for a paternity case that she was losing, or felt she was losing.
Excuse me?
There is a custody issue with her and my stepfather.
Yes.
Over my brother.
How old is your brother?
He is 4 years old now.
Go ahead.
She asked me to help her get a stolen gun originally for her boyfriend, supposedly, that couldn't own a gun. And I said, why would he want a stolen gun? If he gets caught with it, it's even worse. So I said, what are you trying to do? She said, her husband, ex-husband, is winning the case. She feels he's wrongly winning. Help me get something that's a felony so I can get him to lose. And I helped her, and I'm ashamed of that.
How did you help her?
I called a friend that could help her get some drugs. And
what kind of drugs?
Methamphetamines.
And what'd you do with them?
They were delivered to her house. She paid for them.
Delivered to her house?
Yes. I called her the next day and said, I feel wrong about this. I can't send him to jail. I've gone to jail for stuff that I didn't do because of you. I don't want him to go to jail for this. And I came forward and told him. And she held the car against me, telling my brother, tell Brandon if he changes a statement in court that this is all a lie, that I didn't really do this, then I'll give your car back. And I haven't done so. And I located my car, went there to have it towed out of her witness's yard because I paid her for the money and extra money. I paid her the $25 she filed on me. She wanted me to repay her that. She told me, change your statement, pay me $150, which is $25 more than you actually owe me because I filed on you. It cost me $25, so pay me that.
Filed on you for what?
For the car.
You mean when she filed in small claims court?
Yeah, she wanted me to pay her that $25 back.
The fee?
Yeah, and I called the tow truck, went to go repossess my car out of the yard after it was paid for. The tow truck guy said that she won't let me on her property. I left, came back like 20 minutes later. The tow truck guy was pulling it out, said Stephanie told me to impound it as soon as I left. So they deliberately, out of spite, had it towed when I was there to remove it like 20 minutes before. This is all because I won't lie and say that she didn't do this.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jeannie Dent says her son, Brandon Bowen, owes for the value of a car. Brandon says his mother asked him to frame her ex-husband.
Where's your $120 car?
It is at my house. I got it out of impound. I don't want the money for the car. I just wanted my car back, and I just wanted.
You have it now.
Yeah, I just wanted to pay for the damages. The lady that had the car, her witness, kept the key. The impound people had to unlock the door and take the ignition out, and all that has to be replaced. I have estimates how much that's going to cost.
Well, how much is it going to cost?
It's going to cost, just for the locks, not including the ignition, all the locks from Chet's Locksmith is going to be $367.
Forget it. Let me explain something to you. Okay. I'm not giving you, sir, 3 times the cost of the car to put in a new lock.
I don't want the process of the car. I just...
No, but you understand me? The whole car cost $120.
Yeah.
You think that I'm going to order her to pay $300 and how much?
$27.
$27 to put in a new lock? Forget it.
Okay.
Bottom line is, you got your money, you got your car.
Correct.
You don't like each other anymore.
I love my mom.
Well, it certainly doesn't sound like it to me. What were you in jail for, Mr. Bowen?
She alleged that I lived with her for a short period of time, and I was $50 short of paying half of her rent. She told me her new boyfriend doesn't like me. I had to leave because she had a doctor's appointment. I climbed back through my bedroom window. She came home and called the police, and her and my sister made up a story that we stole a bunch of stuff, which is not true, and I went to jail.
Just a minute. What did you go back to jail for recently in March?
That was to serve the last 4 days of the sentence for climbing through her window.
Were you the complainant on that case?
Yes, I was. He broke into my home.
I was living there at
Which
the
is
time.
just one of many things that have happened.
Why do you think that you would be entitled to $1,500?
Because that new contract was signed after constant badgering. He was calling my work, and every time that I would hang up on him, and he'd call back, he would hang up on my boss. My job was at risk. My boss said, this has got to stop.
That's not true.
And,
So
it was creating a problem for me. He was calling my house. I'd get 7 phone calls,
child,
5 are hang-ups.
He's your child. He's your child.
Yeah.
And if you bought him a car for $120, and that's what all this fuss is about.
He's my child who's broken into my home, who's stolen money from me.
I don't understand it. Do you ever have drugs delivered to your house?
No, I did not. And I have a couple statements here. He wrote a statement first and says that the person I'm in this battle with, first he writes a statement and says that this person, Richard, is coercing him to write a statement in lieu of furniture. And he comes to me and tells me that, and I said, well, then maybe you should write that down. So he did, and I have that with me. Then he goes to Richard, the other person, and writes the statement. A couple days later, he's got furniture. Then he comes back and writes another statement and says, well, that was not true, and I recant all that, which I have also.
Sounds like you shouldn't get your child involved in your own domestic court situations, especially when the child is an adult child and doesn't have anything to do with the custody battle that you're currently involved in. Neither you or his stepfather should do that. In any event, you got your money, you got your car. Goodbye, good luck, be well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Happy life.
He's a drug addict.
I can't believe that someone that was supposed to be my mother would actually sit here and do this and say things like this.
Enough is enough.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Foster Nelson versus Winders Burgess. Step forward, please.
17-year-old Anthony Nelson and his stepfather, 35-year-old pipefitter Scott Foster, are suing Anthony's former friend, 15-year-old James Burgess, and his mother, 41-year-old waitress Kim Winders. Anthony claims James took his quad runner without permission and flipped it.
What's your first name?
Anthony Nelson.
Well, that's your first and your second name, but it goes together. Anthony?
Yes, ma'am.
Anthony, you have some sort of a bike. What sort of bike is it?
It's a four-wheeler.
What's a four-wheeler?
It's a quad cab. It's like a motorcycle, but it's got four wheels.
When did you get that?
Early in January, or late January.
Do you ride it?
Yes, ma'am.
How did I know that? Did you ever have one as a child?
I had motorcycles. They didn't have them back then.
But as soon as you saw it, you had to have it.
Oh, yes.
For your son. Right? You understand that?
Yeah.
All right. Just I don't know if I'm disturbing you.
It's a guy. No. Three-letter word for insect.
Gotcha. According to your complaint, Anthony, the defendant, this young man, was with you one day, and you were with some other people who also had fathers who wanted these four-wheelers, who bought them for their children. And the defendant, without your permission, got on the bike, rode it, had an accident with it, and damaged it. You want him to pay, or his mother to pay. That's what this case is about.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not exactly sure what your defense is. That he gave you permission to ride it, and the cost of fixing it was too much, but I'll get to it in a second. How many boys were you out riding with?
There was four of us all together, ma'am.
How many boys had bikes?
The defendant had a motorcycle, and the rest of us had four-wheelers.
So tell me what happened.
We got out of school early, and a couple of my friends and me, we wanted to go for a ride. It seemed like a nice day. We were out riding for a couple hours, and we decided to go take a break.
Was James with you at the time?
Yes, ma'am. He was one of us that was riding with us. We went back to Michael's house, my friend, to take a break. We were in his driveway talking, and the defendant got on my four-wheeler and took off in reverse without asking my permission to get on it. And we ran out after him, but he was already too far out, and you couldn't hear us because of the motor. And by then, he hit the back brake and locked up the axle and flipped the four-wheeler over. We ran out to see if he was all right. We picked the four-wheeler up, looked over it. We talked about it a little bit. He said, all right, I'll pay for the damages, and we'll go and call RTD, that's the dealership. We'll call RTD and see how much it is, and we'll handle it from there.
What parts were damaged?
The plastic was all scratched up. The front steering column was bent. The whole brake assembly was ruined. We had to replace that. It wasn't rideable. You couldn't ride it.
So you got an estimate?
Yes, ma'am.
From the place where you would purchase the bike?
Yes.
Can I see the estimate, please?
Here's the letter stating that it was in brand new condition. Here's the repair order. And here's what I actually bought so that we could continue to ride it.
Entire cost of repairing the bike is $918?
Yes, ma'am.
What's $1,027.11?
That was for my time off of work. I took a day off, or half day off when I figured we were going to court, and my labor's a lot cheaper than theirs.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear you.
Ma'am, I did have permission to ride the four-wheeler. We were all sitting in the driveway. We were standing talking around. Mike just got back from riding it. Mike took it down the road, come back. I go, Anthony, can I ride it? He goes, hold on 1 minute, let it cool down. A few minutes later, I asked him. He said yes. I was backing down the driveway. I hit the rear brake, and a four-wheeler came back. I jumped to the side of the four-wheeler.
You damaged the bike, right?
Yes.
So why shouldn't you pay for it?
I feel it was equal responsibility on both parts.
Why is that?
I've had people blow my stuff up. I got a YZ 125 in '96, and I've had people blow it up, and I've always replaced everything anybody else.
Then you're a good guy. But if you borrow somebody's car and you wreck it, and unless there's insurance that covers it, it's your responsibility.
Yes.
The fact that he said that you could drive it doesn't relieve you of that responsibility. You want to say something?
Yes. The main reason we're here is from the discrepancy in what was supposed to be wrong with the four-wheeler. They went to my house, they called RTD, said it was just the clutch lever or brake lever, and it was $87.
They called and said, this looks like it's wrong with the bike, right?
Yes.
And they said, well, if that's all that's wrong with the bike, and it's $87.
Yes.
But clearly when they took the bike down there...
Can I say one more thing?
Sure, there turned out to be a lot more damage to the bike.
He came to my house, the father and the son came to my house a few weeks afterwards with an estimate of $400 and some. And he said, your son did this, will you pay it? And I said, what happened to the $87? And he got mad, upset, and I said, no, I won't pay the $400 and whatever dollars it was. So he went to go out of my driveway. He threatened my son.
He threatened to beat my... His exact words, he goes, your ass is beat.
He threatened my son, and
that's not
good. At that time, it was $400, $400 and some odd dollars.
Did you ever give them an estimate of $400 some odd?
No, I did not, ma'am. I walked to her door to ask her to pay this damages, and her exact words. Sorry.
That's not what I'm asking you. She said that you showed her a bill at one point for $400.
No, ma'am. She wouldn't even look at it. That's the actual estimate I gave her. She wouldn't even look at it.
Well, this is dated March the 2nd, which is shortly after the accident.
Correct.
He must have went and got that after he left my house. What he brought to my house was $400 and some.
What date did he come to your house?
You know what date it was?
I'm not exactly sure what date he come to my house, but all the kids at school knew it was $427. And then we got the statement in the mail that was that $900. It's like $1,027.
Okay. Has the bike been fixed?
I fixed the steering part so that we could ride it.
And how much did you spend on the steering?
You have the paperwork
Is that
up
the
there?
second bill?
Yes, ma'am.
$219?
Yes, I believe that's what it was.
All right. And the rest of it has not been done?
No, ma'am.
It's very, very easy. I'm entering an initial order of $219.73. And what you folks will do, since you all live in the same neighborhood, is we'll pick a date. You all go down to RTD Motorsports and satisfy yourself what the bill is. I will enter a maximum order in the amount of $918 to be held until the both of you go down and satisfy yourself what the bill is. Do you understand? Does that sound fair to you? I mean, no, it doesn't sound fair to you. He says he had permission. It's his responsibility. He wrecked the bike. And if he wants to be a good guy and take care of it when other people wreck his bikes, that's up to you. You wreck this one, it's your responsibility. The only difference is the cost of repair. And I don't think that you can exaggerate the cost of repair. And you actually spent $219, that you get. Then 5 days from today, you boys make arrangements with your parents, if necessary, to go down to RTD Motors, see what it's going to cost to fix the bike for a maximum of total $918. And then the court will enter judgment in that amount. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Court will draft the order. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may.
Me too.
Who do you live with?
My parents.
You have a baby?
Yes.
How old is the baby?
6 months.
How old are you?
23.
Who do you live with?
My parents.
Well, there was a time that you lived together because you have a child together. That didn't last very long, and according to your complaint, he owes you for a computer that you purchased on your credit while you were together. Mr. Epley says that you left the computer when you left him, and you left the computer because he had supported you for 6 months while you were pregnant, and your arrangement was that you were each supposed to contribute to half of the expenses for the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh. Is there any reason why you decided to have this child?
We were together for 3 years off and on.
Together off and on, Miss Govis suggests to me that when it was off, it was because it wasn't good, right?
Yes.
Did you think having a baby was going to make it better?
No.
your parents, did they have other children?
Yes.
How old are they?
We're all 2 years apart. I have older brothers and sisters.
So all of a sudden, your mother's taking care of a baby again?
Yep.
Terrific. And you don't even live in the same state.
No, ma'am.
Do your parents see their grandchild?
No.
I'm just suggesting to you that you just think about things before you do them. Like buying an expensive piece of equipment on credit. Now, you want to tell me how that came about?
He was going to school and working at the same time, and he was working nights, so for him to wake up and go to the library to use a computer and all that, it was too difficult and too time-consuming, so he asked me to get him a computer on my
play
credit.
with your nails.
Sorry. He asked me to get him a computer on my account because he has bad credit. My parents paid for his bankruptcy, which was a couple months prior. He got that all settled, and then in February of the next year, I got him the computer. And 3 weeks later, we broke up.
Were you pregnant when they paid for his bankruptcy?
No.
Your Honor, they didn't pay for my bankruptcy. It was $600 for me to file bankruptcy. I only had $400 of it at the time, $100 that I didn't have to go ahead and file for it.
Did you pay him back?
Yes, ma'am.
No, he did not. My father would not take the money from him.
But you offered
I
it.
offered the money.
Oh, that's fine. So, you put it on your credit card. When you left, what was the discussion about the computer?
That he would have it paid off by August before the finance charges started coming in.
Oh, so you bought it for 6 months free financing. And you did discuss it when you left?
Yes.
Tell me about the discussion.
He said that he would have it paid off by August before the finance charges because he didn't want to pay any extra money on it. He told me to go ahead and send in for the $100 rebate and send that in towards the computer, but I never got the $100 rebate back from it.
Did you send in for it?
Yes. I don't know if I put the old address and it just didn't come within the time frame of my change of address or what.
A detail.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Repley. Let me hear.
Okay, we moved in together on January 1st of 2005. I moved her down there from Illinois. That's whenever we got together, and I told her at that point in time, you know, I wasn't in a hurry for her to get a job, but I would appreciate the help. We lived there for 4 months, and then we moved into a more expensive place, and I told her I needed her help at that time. We agreed she would pay half the bills and half the rent to help me out, as well as I was going to school full-time and working full-time. So whenever she left, she said, okay.
No. Okay, needed help. And when you told her you needed help and she agreed to pay for half of the expenses, sir, in what month was that?
That was in February of 05.
And in what month did she become pregnant?
I believe it was September, October.
August.
Between February of 05 and August of 05, did she work?
For about a month, Your Honor.
Did you work?
I worked for about 3 months.
Who did you work for?
I worked for temp service.
What'd you do with your money?
Gave it to him.
You contributed your money to the household?
No, ma'am.
And we got a car together, and I paid for the car payment, the gas,
Whatever.
and
She wasn't
insurance.
spending the money on drugs. So she was contributing what she could to the household. And in August, you became pregnant.
Yes.
So you stopped working?
No. I was working up until November.
So you stopped working, and you didn't contribute anymore?
No.
All right, now you tell me, sir, about the conversation you had about the computer when she left.
Whenever she left, her family came to Indiana to help her pack up to move back. And she said, you know, she only worked for a total of, it might have been 2 or 3.
I don't care. I don't care, sir. That's irrelevant to me.
But she owed me for the half of the rent for all the
She
months
doesn't
that
owe you
she
for
didn't
anything.
work.
I just want to know what she said.
She said, you can have the computer for the money that I owe you for all the expenses that you've paid to take care of me during this time.
You mean you never had the conversation with her, I'll pay you for this computer by August?
At the point whenever we broke up, I talked to her a couple months, like
No,
a month
no,
later.
look at
We
me.
were talking.
I asked you a question. That requires a simple answer. Did you ever have a discussion with her that the computer would be paid for by August?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you decide not to do that?
Because I felt that I did not owe her anything, Your Honor.
Well, feel. That's what we're talking about. So you see, you did have the discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
How much does he owe you for the computer?
After everything, it is now $1,750.79.
So, Mr. Repley, this is the situation. If you move in with somebody and things don't work out, that's one thing. She moves on, you move on. Takes two to tango, it takes two to make a baby. Takes two to have a problem if they don't want to have a baby. I believe her that she worked on and off, not consistently, not like you did. Maybe that was a good indication that you didn't want to get involved with somebody who was not keeping up their half of the bargain, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Then what you don't do is have a baby with her. And there are things that you can do in order not to do that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You owe us $1,750. You still have the computer?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I sold it.
Why?
Because I did a change of jobs and I was hurting on money, so I had to sell the computer.
Well, this is going to hurt even more. So now you don't have the computer. You have to pay for it.
Yes, ma'am.
$1,750. That's all. Step out. I didn't ask you whether they were true or not true. I asked, what were you arrested for?
I was arrested on allegations of domestic violence.
Was it the first time you were arrested?
Yes.
Look at me. Was
Yes.
it the first time you were arrested? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
Better. When was the first time you were arrested?
Several years ago.
Having nothing to do with domestic violence.
Has something to do with domestic violence.
So you have 2 arrests for domestic violence?
That's correct.
Was it the same complainant in each case?
Different.
Different. Okay. You are a bail bondsman?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your claim that you received a call from the defendant in jail. You responded. You bailed her out of jail. At her request, she promised to pay for the bond. She did not. You want your money.
Yes.
Defendant says you're a sleazy bail bondsman and she's not paying you.
Correct.
When did you receive the call?
Sometime in the middle of the night from the county jail.
What night? I'm not Karnak. What night would
I'm
you
sorry.
like to tell me it is?
July the 15th.
In the middle of the night. You were home?
Correct. In bed.
How did you get his number?
It was posted on the wall in the county jail.
You have your home number posted in the wall in county jail?
No, ma'am. It's an office number that forwards to my cell phone in the evening and weekends.
I see. I wouldn't think that you'd want your house phone
No.
to have a number. Okay. What did the defendant say to you when she called?
That she was in jail and she had to get out. She had to get to work the next morning. If she didn't get out, she would lose her job.
What kind of job do you have?
I'm an executive assistant.
For whom?
For a small media startup.
How long have you had that job?
Close to a year.
10 months?
Something like that.
Where did you work before?
I was managing a medical spa.
Where?
Walnut Creek, California.
Okay. Have any family here?
Just my 2 children.
How old are they?
6 and 2.
They live with you?
Part-time.
Who do they live with the other part of the time?
Well, my son lives with, my daughter part-time lives with her paternal family.
Maternal or paternal?
Paternal.
Paternal. So the father's family, father's parents with her grandparents?
No, his brother and his family, they live very close by, about 10-minute drive from where I live, and she's there a lot because I work full-time.
Okay. So you had to get to work at the media startup company when you called him?
Correct.
Did you tell him that you were going to take care of paying his bail?
What happened was I told him that I didn't have any money.
No. When you called him on the phone from jail, you told him I don't have any money?
Correct.
Is that right?
No.
Of course not.
Right. I wouldn't.
Of course not, because if you tell you, please bail me out of jail, but I don't have any money, and he doesn't know you from a hole in the wall, he's not getting out of his warm bed in the middle of the night. Madam.
Well, he did.
No. He did. The question was, did you tell him that you didn't have any money?
Yes, I did.
He says you didn't, and I'm saying I believe him that at that time you didn't tell him I have no money. Because if he's in business and he gets a call from a stranger, you are a stranger, right?
Correct.
That I want you to get up out of bed, drive over to the jail and bail me out. But by the way, I have no money. He'd say, call somebody else.
That's exactly what I said.
All right. I don't believe you. Go ahead.
We discussed that she had a CD, and the CD was maturing within the next 30 days, and that there would be ample
That she would have money.
Correct. In the CD to pay me out of the proceeds of the CD. And she didn't want to cash it in early because she didn't want to pay the penalty. I agreed to those terms within 30 days that she would use the CD.
Was this on the telephone?
That was on the telephone.
Okay. Because you did ask her the question about money.
Correct.
And when you said, do you have money, what did she say?
I have a CD.
Okay. So, did you tell her how much the bail would be?
Correct. 10%, $5,000.
Because she had $50,000 bail?
Correct.
That's a high bail for domestic violence.
It is.
Do you know why it was so high?
That's per the schedule in that county. That's always $50,000 for a felony charge.
It was a felony.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So we get her out. We memorialize our agreement in writing. She
Can I
signs
see it,
a
please?
bail contract and the agreement to pay.
Can I see it, please? Okay, so you signed an agreement to pay him the $5,000.
I had no choice. He made me sign it.
But
Madam,
listen to me very carefully, madam. You have a choice. Your choice is to stay in jail until the matter on which you were arrested for is tried. That's your choice. You chose.
You had a different agreement.
No. This is your agreement. This in here is your agreement, in the four corners of this agreement. And what I asked you was, did you sign this agreement? And the answer is either yes or no, not
Yes,
I was forced to
I did sign
sign
that
it.
agreement, but aside from that, there was an oral agreement that took place between me and Mr. McAllister.
I'll get
and
to
I
you in
had-
a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Once the agreement's signed, I get her out of jail. She says, now what do? I live 30 minutes from here. I agreed to give her a ride. She's worried about getting to work, so I give her a ride. And it's about 30 minutes away. So during that time, she tells me the entire story about the arrest, and I attempt to be understanding that, you know, she was arrested, and I'm sorry, and that's a bad thing, and you're dealing with a breakup, and, you know, how she caught her boyfriend with his new girlfriend laying on the couch that she paid for or she picked out. And the entire time in the car,
Would you look at me when you're telling me this story, Mr. McAllister? Look at me. Don't look down there.
Sorry. The entire time in the car, she says, I'm not a stalker, I'm not a stalker. I go, okay, sorry, you're not a stalker. No problem. Okay, I'll get you to your vehicle. Well, the vehicle's parked 3 blocks away from the house where she was living or where she was arrested. So there's obviously something going on there. Anyway, I get her out, she signs the agreement, and she refuses to pay me.
Just a second. When did she sign the agreement?
Immediately upon release from the county jail.
Okay. And then you drove her to her car.
Correct.
And you dropped her, and she never paid you.
Right. I made
When,
repeated
for the first time, did you contact her with regard to payment?
Well, within 10 days, we sent her an invoice, just a reminder of the payment terms, and sent her 4 or 5 subsequent invoices that went answered with these rambling letters talking about...
Do you have a copy of the letters?
I do.
Can I see them, please?
Those are her letters to me and then my responses.
Based upon our discussion, these are your words, when he initially asked you for your money. Based upon our discussion, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you and your business in lieu of paying you $5,000 for a relatively risk-free, as you put it, bond. I am still awaiting the opportunity to make good on my offer to work for your company. As you were advised at the time the bond was posted, I have not, or do not have now, $5,000 fee that you are demanding. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time of the unsecured bond was posted, I now consider your correspondence demanding $5,000 to be intimidating and threatening. What are you, crazy? Please do not send me any more threatening letters. You knew my financial predicament at the time bail was posted. I still intend to honor my promise to perform professional services for you. You never promised to perform professional services for him. Your own letter says, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you or your business in lieu of paying for the bond. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time, I now consider your... Discussions aren't a contract, madam.
Let me tell you what happened.
Yeah,
because he's not telling you the whole truth.
Go
what
ahead.
happened, he bails me out.
Are you, just a second, are you telling me the whole truth? Listen, are you telling me the whole truth?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
About your children's living arrangements, you're telling me the whole truth?
We're not talking about my children right now. I want to tell you.
You mean you're telling the truth?
About what
Listen to
happened.
me. You're telling the truth sometimes, and sometimes you can lie. And when am I supposed to tell the difference? You see, I knew that you were lying to me about your children's living situation. That you're not willing to discuss.
What did I lie about?
Listen to me. My question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're lying, and how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth?
I do tell the truth.
But you just lied to me today.
About what?
You lied about your children's living situation.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
How did I?
Oh, yes, you did. And you know you did. You know that they live with me part-time, they live with some part-time, they live here because I work. That's not the story. But that's a story you chose to tell me. Now, you told me that with the same veracity as you told me that you had another contract with him. And my question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth and when you're lying?
What I'm saying is the truth.
Okay. Now I'm going to hear you, and then I'll tell you what the law is.
Okay. Well, he bails me out. He drives me to my vehicle. On the way to my vehicle, he makes comments about, and he says, well, it would be nice if a pretty woman like you worked for my company, doing some sort of marketing and promoting my company, and maybe we can work something out in terms of paying for the bail bond that he posted on my behalf. So when he dropped me off by my vehicle, and before he left, he made me sign the agreement that you saw after we had the conversation of me potentially working for his company.
Did you get what you said to me, madam? You just said to me, maybe you could work for my company. Maybe you could work for my company.
And
that's not an agreement.
No,
that's not. No. After that, nothing. You took that, and I believe that you said that to her. Well, maybe you could work for my company and do something. Maybe you said it to her. Who cares? It's not relevant. There was no
I
contract.
said I couldn't work for him full time as he proposed.
It doesn't.
So he
No,
said,
madam.
We can work something out, and you can work for me on weekends.
Your Honor.
Oh, listen to me. Listen to me. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
Yes.
No, I have
you are
a
because
letter.
according to what you said to me, after you had that discussion, after, not before. You see, he said you signed this at the jail.
No.
You say I signed it after I had the discussion with him about working with him part-time, weekends, etc. If that was true, that's not contained in this agreement.
No.
And I believe, madam, that you are one smart cookie. And if he had this conversation with you where you made a contract with him, a contract that's enforceable, to work off the bail bond by working for him part-time, you would have put it in this agreement because you're already out of jail. You see, you're already out. Because you're already bailed out. So then you could either say to him, I'm not signing this. Or you say, it's not the entire agreement that we have. But you didn't. You signed it and said, I promise to pay you $5,000.
Well, he told me right there that if you don't sign it, I'm just going to put you right back to jail. That's what he told me.
I don't believe you. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
You're making it up as you're going along because if he said to you, you signed this or I'm going to take you back to jail.
That's what he said.
Your response would have been, well, then put in our agreement that I could work it off, right? Right?
I was very stressed.
Oh, listen, it's not the first time you were arrested. That's why I asked you the question before.
And
it's not the first time. It's probably not the second time that you were arrested. So pay him his money. You owe him his money. Don't be a con artist. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. She owes you a couple of months' rent and some utility bills. Ms. Cepeda says you told her to leave the apartment. She owes you nothing. Who signed the lease to the apartment?
I did.
So it was just in your name?
No, it's both of our names, but she never stopped by the office to sign it.
Listen to me, Miss Rendon. If she didn't sign the lease was in your name.
It was printed with both of our names, but she...
Show me the lease. I mean, are you not following what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I thought this was going to be easy.
What happened was that...
I don't care what happened. This is a contract.
Yeah.
This is the only contract that exists with the landlord. Who signed it?
I did.
Period. We're going to start again. Okay. And I'm going to try to come down. You moved into the apartment. The lease is in your name only. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you moved in together.
Yes.
And according to you, you had an arrangement with her that you would split all the rent and all the utilities on this apartment. Lease is from September 1st, 06 to February 28th, 07. Yes. When did you move out?
I moved out January 31st.
Now, according to what I read, you paid January's rent, and then you went and withdrew money from the bank so that the check bounced.
Right.
Now, you try to explain to me why you do not owe January's rent if you lived there, according to you, until January 31st.
Because I wasn't really staying there.
I don't give a rat's behind whether you were really staying there or not. Your things were there.
Right.
So you owe January's rent.
Yes.
I would like to say something, Your Honor. She agreed to stay there till March 1st.
Why don't you be quiet?
Okay.
How much was your half of the rent?
$590.
Put your hand down. So far you owe her $590 for the month of January because you can't give her a bad check for January. Do you understand?
Yes.
Did you pay the utilities in January?
No, I did not.
How much are the utilities in January? January only.
January, they're $90 a month.
So far, that's $680. Now, according to you, she also owes for February. Now you can tell me why she owes for February when she moved out January 31st.
When she first moved in, the agreement was that she was going to pay $590 a month until March 1st. It was a 6-month lease. Throughout that time, she kept paying her rent late. She also was very disrespectful to the point that she had people have sex in our apartment with me there.
Wow. You want to tell me about February? Because so far you haven't told me about February.
I couldn't find a roommate. Obviously, I had to come up with the money to cover for February because she just pretty much left. She didn't even bother cleaning the room.
She says that you told her to leave. Is that right?
2 weeks before the end of January, she told me that she had found a new roommate that would be moving in in the beginning of February.
Who that was?
She told me a girl that she found on Craigslist would be moving into the apartment.
So you decided to terminate this roommate relationship well prior to January 31st.
Yes.
Because you had discussed moving out.
Right.
You say it was her fault. She says it's your fault. It was clear from reading the complaint and answer that the two of you did not have compatible lifestyles.
Right.
All right. Go ahead.
So in January, at the middle of January, I decided, I guess I don't have a choice. She had notified me that I would have to be leaving the apartment because she found a new roommate, and so I decided, okay.
Where did you find this new roommate?
She was a friend of my ex-roommate, one of my ex-roommates.
And when did she move in?
She moved in March 1st.
So you had to cover the rent yourself in February,
Yes,
right?
I did.
That's too bad. She owes you $680 for January. Anything else?
No.
Anything else?
The bills, I mean, she didn't pay for the bills for January.
$680. Get over it. That's all.
Yeah, this is case number 105 on the calendar in the matter of Arnold Hill versus Arnold. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Miss Arnold, this is your former husband.
Yes.
And this is your
New husband.
new husband. And according to your complaint, your former husband made allegations about you and your husband with regard to your treatment of your two children. You have two children with him?
Yes.
As a result of that, the two of you were briefly arrested and lost custody of the children for a very brief period of time. The children are back with you now.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold said he has every right to have been concerned about his children. He acknowledges he made the report that resulted in your arrest, and he is going to explain to me why. Now, when were you divorced, Miss Arnold?
August 16, 2004.
And how many children do you have, Mr. Arnold?
Two, a boy.
Only
and a
two
girl.
children.
Yes, by her.
What are their dates of birth?
March 19th for my son, 99, and my daughter, September 4th, 19.
Did you and your former wife live together until 2004?
No,
When did you separate?
2002 or probably one.
When did you separate?
2000.
Your former wife has had physical custody of the children since 2000. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Since one of the children was a year old, right? And one of the children was 5 years old.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Explain it to me.
My son was at least about 3 years old when we was living together.
Is that right?
Bruce has been on and on in the household. So it was basically 1 month he'll be in the household, the next month he will not.
That's a lot.
With duration of that, his appearance was basically an in-and-out father. I assumed full custody of my kids, sole custody, when I got the divorce, August 16, 2004.
Okay. Now I got it. Now, sir, you made a report to Child Protective Services or to the police?
To the police.
When?
December 2006, I believe it was around the 15th or 16th.
Prior to December 2016, that's the date of your divorce, have you been regularly paying child support?
Yes, off and on.
Yes, off and on is not regularly paying child support. Since August 16th, have you been regularly paying child support?
I pay child support twice. I pay from the public aid and for our divorce.
I'm asking you, since August 16th, 2004, when the divorce granted you primary physical custody, have you been regularly paying support?
Yes.
Well, you said yes, and then 2 seconds ago you said yes off and on. Which one is it?
Because when I wasn't working, I was still giving her $50 a week, and they weren't taking out my check.
Is that right?
No. Basically, since like all of this happened December 16th, I'll say a minimum of about 2 payments that he has given me. This current year, up to date, I would say at the most, maybe a month worth of payments, and that's $50 every other month, if that.
Okay. Now, sir, you reported an incident to the police in December of 2006. You want to tell me what precipitated that report?
Yes, my children was home with my mother, their grandmother, and my daughter and her was talking. And my daughter came out and told her everything that was going on about the past and the present. And so my mother got on the phone, called me crying. She was saying that my kids are being abused.
Don't tell me what your mother said to you. I assume that there was a time that you came home and spoke to your children.
I was getting to that point, ma'am.
I know, but you can't tell me what your mother said to you, sir, because that's hearsay.
I understand.
You can, however, tell me what your children... Listen to me. You're not paying attention, Mr. Arnold. You cannot tell me what your mother said to you. There is an exception with regard to what children say to their parents in family court proceedings, so I'm accepting what the children said to you. And I assume that as a result of the conversation with your mother, you had a conversation with your children.
Yes, ma'am.
When?
As soon as I got off the phone with her, I came home and I talked to my children. And that's when they informed me about the things that was going on.
Well, I would like you to tell me specifically what they informed you and which child informed you of
My
what.
daughter informed me that one occasion that Zanita had sat on top of her back while Lawrence whooped her. Then my son told me...
Okay, now, that's what your daughter said to you.
Yes, ma'am.
That her stepfather had hit her with what?
A belt.
Did she tell you when?
It was like a month prior to that date.
Are you making this up as you're going? Are you sure that she said to you it was a month before?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
Okay. And is that all your daughter told you?
No.
What else did she tell you?
She told me that she got a whooping because she didn't like what her mother had picked out for school, and she got in trouble for that.
Is that at the same occasion that you're talking to me about?
No, ma'am.
That was on a different occasion.
Yes.
And when did she say that happened?
Well, she didn't really say when that one happened. And then my son told me that he gets whoopings for no reason. So he told me about when I used to stay in Texas, that he showed me a burnt mark that he said Lawrence had burnt him with an iron. I said, did he do it on purpose or on accident? He said, no, Daddy, he did it on purpose.
When were you living in Texas? What year?
2003, 2004.
So that's 2003, 2004. So that your son was either 4 or 5 years old when you were in Texas. Okay. And what else did your son tell you?
He told me, well, actually, she told me one time that he had whooped him and hit him in his private part, and it swelled up so bad that she claimed they took him to the hospital.
And your former wife told you that?
And he's a witness to that.
Okay. So as a result of that, those are the reasons that you called the police?
It was all building up, the stuff that they telling me that I didn't know what was going on.
Okay.
Yes,
that's the reason why you called the police. Mr. Hill, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. And I would prefer answers from you so that I don't necessarily have to interview the children, who I understand are here, because I assume that they've already been examined and spoken to. So I would prefer that I get the legitimate answers from you. Mr. Hill, have you ever hit either of your stepchildren?
I have disciplined them with a belt in previous instances, yes.
How often?
Very infrequently.
More than 5 times since you've been their stepfather, or less than 5 times?
Less than 5 times.
More than twice or less than twice?
More than twice, less than 5.
And have you done that with the approval of Miss Arnold?
Yes.
Has Miss Arnold ever disciplined the children with a belt?
Yes.
These are hard questions.
Sure. I'm sorry.
You got a lot of nerve.
Miss Arnold, don't speak to him.
I'm sorry.
Don't speak to him. How often have you witnessed Miss Arnold disciplining her children with a belt?
I would say over the past 4 years, less than 5, more than twice.
Both the boy and the girl?
Yes. My daughter really doesn't get whoopings at all. We don't have
You mean your stepdaughter?
Yes.
How old was your stepson when you started to discipline him with a belt?
He was 4, almost 5 years old.
And do you remember the reason that you disciplined him with a belt?
No, not offhand. It was so long ago.
Well, try to tell me what infractions were that you remember that caused either the boy or the girl to be disciplined with a belt.
From what I remember is for lying.
Who was lying?
My son was lying.
What did he say?
I believe it had something to do with school. We hold school very important, so...
Do you remember, Miss Arnold?
Actually, this particular incident when he's talking about, it was dealing with school. We had a conversation with Michael regarding his grades and also just the upkeep of his schoolwork. We talked with him on numerous occasions about it. Our whoopings or our discipline methods are not what Bruce tends them out to be. When we do, at that point, when he did whoop him, it's more or less, we'll tell him hold out his hand and whoop him 1 or 2 times at that point.
That's not true.
Okay.
Are you in the household?
Shh. Hey! Listen to me. Your lawsuit alleges that Mr. Arnold had no right to notify the police or Child Protective Services about what he perceived to be abuse and or neglect of his children. You believe that. And I'm telling you that he had every right to notify Child Protective Services, and if notify the police who reported you to Child Protective Services in order to ascertain whether or not you were using excessive corporal punishment. He had not only the right, but he had the obligation to do that. You two look like very nice people. There is a difference between corporal punishment and excessive corporal punishment. I acknowledge that. That's a term of law, because the law in this country doesn't say, although perhaps it should, that you cannot corporally punish your children by using a belt or a hanger or anything else. The law says that you cannot excessively punish your children. But as a parent, if my children came to me and said that their step-parent was with a belt, a 4-year-old,
Ma'am, it wasn't
I'm
a belt.
speaking.
It was an iron.
It was an iron.
He's stating,
That's what he stated.
Listen to
That's
me.
why we got arrested.
Listen to
because
me.
he said that we whooped
We
them
have
with a
the-
metal iron
the
and we
actual
burnt the
statements.
child.
Never said
That
what.
was a lie.
No,
we
we
have
have
a
the
statement.
statement
Listen to me
prove
very.
that.
Listen to me. Hey,
Come on.
you're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you.
Yes, we are, yeah.
I understand what
That's
you're saying,
their problem,
but that's not the allegation. The allegation is a
problem.
metal
Listen to me.
iron.
Listen to me. If your children were telling their father that they felt as if they were being disciplined harshly by you and their stepfather. And it is apparent to me that you do discipline them harshly. Now, whether in the jurisdiction that you live, that's permissible or not, that's not up to me to say. I assume that the courts permitted you to have your children back.
Mr. Arnold, has he whooped his children either?
Listen to
over
me.
The past
And you know
years?
you have whooped those kids.
You
don't need to be. Why? Why? Because you whooped them.
Still ain't got yours for doing to my son.
I ain't did nothing to your son.
I would like for you to talk to the kids.
Just a second.
Because that's what it's about. He made those kids lie.
Talk to the judge.
No, just a second.
I take care of
Hey!
Sir,
if you say one more word, leave it down there.
judge.
If you say one more word, I'm not even going to continue with the case. Do you understand, Miss Arnold?
Yes.
You have a temper problem. And my sense is if you have a temper problem here with me in a court situation where I am in authority and in control of my space, my sense is that if you have a temper problem, you can lose it with a 5-year-old. Do you get it? Now, try to keep your mouth shut. Do you understand until I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you get it?
Hey,
Stop
hey,
it.
hey.
Do you get it?
Yes.
I said to you, I'm going to ask you questions so that I won't have to interview the children if I don't have to, because the children have already been interviewed, I guarantee, by many professionals with the Child Protective Services and the police department. Put your hand down. I didn't have to interview the children because you told me, the two of you told me, that you whip your children with belts. Now,
We no longer do that because we have actually had intervention prior before him making allegations.
Listen to me.
Yes,
Listen to me. Whether or not you've had intervention,
We
and
had counseling.
you had counseling.
Yes,
Hey,
and it was proven that these charges came after the
I
fact.
dropped the charges.
Just
He
a
should be
second.
in jail.
Hey,
No.
I'm saying
You
the
should be
same
in jail
thing
for
to
not
you
paying
as I
child
said to
support. I
him.
raised your kids.
How come she get money from me every other week?
Your case is
Every other week,
dismissed.
don't pay for it.
Goodbye. Is that he is responsible for a portion of your mother's funeral expenses.
That's correct.
Mr. Perks says he is not responsible for any portion of your mother's funeral expenses. When did your mother pass away?
April 22nd, 2007.
And it is my understanding that her primary asset was a life insurance policy. Is
That's
that correct?
correct.
Did she have any other assets other than this life insurance policy?
She had a few $100s in a bank account that I used to pay for the nursing home.
Other than the life insurance policy, did she have a home? Did she have a car?
No.
Did she have bonds? Anything else?
No.
Life insurance policy?
Yes.
And how much was the life insurance policy?
I don't know the total amount. We each got a portion of it. Was $2,082.74 a piece times 8, so a little over $17,000.
And insurance policy, I assume it was from work? Or?
Correct. It came out of her pension.
So it was a pension?
Right.
And it is also my understanding from your complaint that there was no named beneficiary on the policy.
That's correct.
So far, are we correct on that, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
So, only asset is a $17,000 life insurance policy, correct?
Yes.
You have 7 siblings.
That's correct.
Correct. Your mother did not have a will.
No, she did not.
So you decided, I assume, that you had been taking care of her business?
Correct.
You didn't object to that?
I didn't object. I didn't know I was objecting to because she never consulted me on anything.
Don't give me a lot of baloney.
Carolyn Kruger says her brother, Kevin Perks, refuses to pay his share of their mother's funeral. Kevin says he shouldn't have to.
Now, when you went to visit her, did you take charge of her medical care, of overseeing her stay in the nursing home? Did you take care of her other business, or did you just go and visit her?
I just went and visited her.
So you knew somebody had to be taking care of that.
That's correct.
And who did you think was taking care of that business?
Carolyn.
There we go. And you didn't object to that?
No, I did not.
Perfect. Now, you did receive a portion of this life insurance, did you not?
That's correct.
How much did you receive?
$2,076 and some change. I don't know the exact amount.
When your mother passed away in April of 2007, did she pass away in the same town where you live?
Yes.
Did you go to the funeral?
Yes.
Did you put on a suit?
Yes.
You married?
Fiance.
Did your fiance go with you?
Yes, she did.
Do you have children?
Yes, we do.
Did you bring your children to the funeral?
Yes.
So they went to their grandmother's funeral.
Yes.
Were there flowers at the funeral?
Yes.
Was there a grave site that you went to?
Yes.
Did you ever stop to say to yourself, who's paying for this? Mr. Parks,
No.
did you ever stop to say to yourself, who's paying for this?
Yes.
Did you think the burial fairy was paying for it?
No.
No. So you knew that somebody had to be paying for it.
That's correct.
And who did you think? Put your hand down. Who'd you think that was?
The life insurance policy.
Right! Look how smart you are. You thought that her life insurance policy was paying for it, right?
That's correct.
Put your hand down. It did. All your brothers and sisters kicked in from the life insurance policy to pay for the funeral, except you. That's what the case is all about. Now, your sister could very easily have said, I am going to take all the proceeds of this life insurance policy, and I'm going to pay the $6,000 for Mom's funeral, and whatever is left over, I'm going to give it to my brothers and sisters. Right?
That's correct.
Well, that's what you thought happened. Instead, your sister decided to do what she considered the right thing, which was name each of you as a beneficiary on the life insurance policy. You all got your money, and everybody divided the $6,000 or whatever it was for the funeral and sent her a check for their portion. Go!
Well, Your Honor, the life insurance policy, normally most life insurance policy, they have a provision, or the funeral home has an agreement where you can have a form filled out to have the life insurance policy paid for it, the funeral expense itself. She never told me about this expense whatsoever. A week after I got the check, I never heard anything from her, never agreed to it, never paid anything. She didn't consult me about it, nothing.
So? And your point would be?
That should have been consulted further on...
I'm consulting you right now. I'm consulting you. Who's supposed to pay for your mother's funeral? Not you. You have no legal obligation to pay for your mother's funeral. None. But you have no right to accept full proceeds of a life insurance policy, which by law is supposed to pay for her funeral expenses before it's dispersed to any beneficiary. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. So it was done a little bit backwards. Instead of taking the money out and then put your hand down. Does it sound like you're losing?
No, I'm sorry.
So instead of taking the $6,000 out and paying for the policy and then distributing it to you, she distributed it to the siblings and then says, okay, brothers and sisters, now send me a check. It's the same thing. Do you understand?
Yes.
You don't have to be consulted about that, sir. This one wants to say something. I'm just dying to hear what she has to say. Dying to hear what she has to say.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, but during the funeral and everything that was at the funeral, as far as the casket, the flowers, anything, Kevin was not allowed or invited to pick any of that stuff out.
Was he invited to pick out who the nurses were going to be at his mother?
Your Honor.
Pay attention to what I'm saying to you. Was he consulted, and did he make himself responsible for his mother's care in the nursing home where she was?
He had no choice.
Of course he had a choice. Did he have a choice to pick you?
Yes.
Then he had a choice to pick where his mother went and who took care of her and participating in her care. He chose not to do that. Just as he chose, madam, listen to me very carefully, he chose to let somebody else take the responsibility for picking out a casket, for picking out flowers. It was not as if he wasn't invited to the funeral. He went with you and his children. He just made himself dumb, which I have a feeling isn't much of a stretch. You owe your sister your share of your mother's funeral. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. How much was it?
$750.
Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all. According to the complaints that I read, each of you, through your parents or guardian, suggests that the other assaulted him at a sleepover party you were having at somebody's house. Both of you claimed that you were injured?
Yes, ma'am.
And since the parents weren't there and the sister wasn't there, you're going to stand up on your own and tell me when this was and what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
I would suggest to you, if you think about lying, turn around and leave. If you think about stretching the truth, it will be a very unfortunate day for you. So I expect to hear from you nothing but the
truth.
Correct. What's your first name?
Trevor.
And yours?
Justin.
How long had you been friends?
A few years.
And tell me when this incident happened. Where were you, Trevor?
I was at my friend Austin's house.
How many people were there?
About 6.
Remember the date?
No, ma'am.
Do you remember the date?
No, ma'am.
Do you remember the month?
No. I'm honestly not sure.
Did you have medical bills?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you had bills, then I bet you your mother remembers what date this happened. What date?
September 5th, 2007.
Where were Mr. Austin's parents?
They were back in their room.
And there was 6 people sleeping over?
Yes, ma'am. We were in the living room. We were all playing around. We were having a pillow fight, just playing around. And I decided I wanted to stop, so I sat down and was watching TV, and I was hitting the back of the head with the pillow, like, really hard. And I turned around and asked my friend who did it, and he said Justin. I assumed Justin Townsend.
You assumed it was him?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
didn't see him, did you? But somebody else said Justin. How many Justins were there?
2.
So you went over to this Justin, and what did you do?
I hit him with a pillow.
You hit him. What was he doing when you hit him?
He was sitting down.
So he wasn't doing anything?
No, ma'am.
Did you hit him in the face or in the back?
I wasn't paying attention where I hit him. I just hit him with a pillow.
Did you hit him because you were angry?
Yes, ma'am.
So I assume you hit him as hard as you could.
Yes, ma'am.
Then what happened?
I turned around to walk off. I heard him say something, so I turned back around and I was hit in the face.
By whom?
By him.
And?
I was hit in the face and knocked back on my back. I got back up and went into the kitchen, and I saw blood, so I went back in there and grabbed a lamp and hit him with the lamp.
And?
After I hit him with the lamp, I walked back into the kitchen. He walked after me and asked me if I wanted to even out the other eye, and I grabbed a knife and told him if he came any closer, I would cut him, which
Yeah?
I understand was the wrong thing to do. And
The whole thing was the wrong thing for you to do.
yes,
You hit him first.
yes, ma'am.
Don't you get that?
Well, during...
What do you mean, well?
He was under the impression that it was Justin
I
Townsend.
don't
who
care
hit
what he
him.
was under the impression that it was Justin who hit him. It wasn't. Right?
No, ma'am.
So you made a mistake. You picked the wrong Justin.
Yes, ma'am.
And you hit him as hard as you could.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you were angry. And he got up and he hit you back.
Yes, ma'am.
And he gave you a black eye.
Yes, ma'am.
So you went into the kitchen, saw you were bleeding, came out, picked up a lamp, an object. So far you've been playing with feathers and fists. So you pick up a lamp and you hit him in the head. And then you went and got a knife. What is wrong with you?
Nothing's wrong with me.
I mean, why would you sue him? Your son did absolutely the wrong thing. Now you can stand up next to him. Your son, you can stand up next to your brother. Your son did absolutely the wrong thing.
Well, according to what the witnesses at the party told me...
Don't tell me what the witnesses told you, madam. That's hearsay.
Okay.
That's
well-
what your son says.
Okay.
Your son was there, not somebody that I can't question, because they're not here.
Okay, well then
Your
I
son
won't-
gave me the whole scenario. His
He-
words.
He did, and he hit Justin with a pillow, and Justin turned around and hit him on a chair, jumped, and punched him in the face.
So what? Out of nowhere, for no reason, your son came up and, according to him, using all of his strength, because he was angry, hit him. For no reason. And he got punched back. And then your son went and got an instrument, a lamp, and hit him with the lamp.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he went and got a knife.
To defend himself, yes.
What do you mean to defend himself?
Because he had threatened that he was going to come back and punch even out his other eye. He didn't want any further more.
He hit him with a lamp.
Correct.
Mr. Townsend hit him one time in retaliation for him being hit. Your son hit him once with a pillow, hit him twice using a lamp, and then picked up a knife. You're lucky he wasn't arrested. So your complaint is dismissed. Now, were you injured?
Just slightly. I had a bruise from where he hit me with the lamp.
Where did he hit you with the lamp?
Hit me in my ribs in this area.
You owe him an apology. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Say, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I forgive you.
Is that sufficient?
Yes, ma'am.
Made a mistake, Mrs. Weatherford. Your son was the aggressor.
I didn't feel that
Aggressors
way.
sometimes get the worst of a fight. In this case, your son was very lucky. All he ended up with was a black eye. If he would have used the knife or used the lamp in a different place, it could have been a lot worse for him.
Ma'am, he ended up with a lot more than a black eye.
How many times did he get hit?
He got hit once, but he got hit very hard, and it wasn't with a pillow.
No, he got hit with a fist.
Yes, he did.
That's what he deserved.
I don't feel that.
Well, that's too bad what you feel. I'm telling you, legally, your son had no right because he picked the wrong Justin to hit him. He didn't inquire sufficiently.
That's your opinion.
No, that's the law.
Okay.
And if you want to continue to defend him, this isn't the last time you're going to be in court with him. You better learn to say, you made a mistake, dear. You're a big boy. How old are you?
14, ma'am.
14. And how tall are you?
6.
6
foot.
feet,
Yes.
right? Still growing. So you have to teach a child who's 14 years old. How much do you weigh?
220.
Who's 6 feet tall and weighs 220 pounds, that if he hits somebody, slams them with all of his might with a pillow, he can hurt them. Can knock out an eye, break something. Fortunately, that didn't happen. But when somebody who is, how much do you weigh?
120.
who weighs 100 pounds less punches him back and happens to connect, that's part of the risk. So you better teach him. Because right now, you're not teaching him anything. You're still making excuses for his behavior. Your case is dismissed.
Thank you.
You got an apology?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, that's all. This must be your niece, is that right? There was a party at your house. He was there, this young man, whose name is?
Damien.
Damon, who's 15 years old. This is Damon's mother. You gave Damon permission to drive your car.
That's correct, ma'am.
And Damon had an accident with your car.
That's correct.
And you think that his mother should be responsible for paying to fix your car.
That's correct, ma'am.
Convince me.
Okay. February 6th, we're having a birthday party, Your Honor. About 7:30 that night, the party was winding down. And I asked Damien, I said, Damien, do you have a driver's license? Can you drive? He said, yes. I said, you know, you guys want to go to the movie? You don't want to hang out with us? That's fine. So please be back by 11:30.
So you said to him, you have a driver's license? He said, yes.
Yeah,
You have to just shh. You want to take the car and take some of the kids and go to the movies? And he said yes, and that's when they went out, and that's when the accident happened.
Yes, ma'am.
How many children were in the car?
Just one.
Just your niece?
Tiana. Yes, ma'am.
How did the accident happen?
Well, we got in the car, and well, I guess he pressed the gas too much, and it went like really fast back. And I guess he didn't see my neighbor's van, and like parked, and like it hit it.
Now, how do you know Damien?
We've been good friends.
You've been good friends for how long?
1 year.
How old are you?
14.
So you know that Damien is 15.
Yeah.
And where do you live? And where is that?
Illinois.
In Illinois. And how old do you have to be to have a driver's license in Illinois?
16 or 18.
You know that, because every teenager knows that you have to be 16, right?
Yes.
So you knew that when you got into the car with Damien, he didn't have a driver's license.
Yes.
Did you tell your uncle?
No.
Do you love your uncle?
Yes.
But you didn't tell him that Damien didn't have a driver's
No,
license?
it's because I didn't know.
Of course you knew. If you knew him and you were his friend and you knew he was 15 and you knew in your state you have to be 16 to have a driver's license, you knew he didn't have a driver's license, right?
Right.
Do you have children?
No, ma'am.
Well, then I really can't fault you. Do you know when a teenager is lying?
Not exactly, no, ma'am.
I'm going to tell you, when their mouths move.
Yes, ma'am.
To your own niece? She didn't say to your uncle, don't give him the keys to the car because he doesn't have a driver's license, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And let me tell you something else. If something happened to him and her in the car, you know who would be responsible?
I would, Your Honor.
His mother's not responsible. His mother didn't give him the keys to a car. You gave a minor the keys to a car. He was a friend of your 14-year-old's niece, which should have put you on notice right away that he was not old enough to have a driver's license. And when you said you have a driver's license, you should have said to him, let me see it.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, he doesn't look 50. He looks 17. The guy, he was very polite. He was very much a man there.
I'm not talking to you about perception. I'm talking to you about the law.
Yes, ma'am.
The law doesn't want to hear, well, he looked older. If it doesn't work with statutory rape, it doesn't work with a car. Do you know the analogy, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
The analogy is, well, she didn't look 13, she looked 20. You know how far that goes in sentencing? Not at all. Same way with a car. You don't give your car to anybody unless you are positive that they are licensed by the state to drive it. That being said, sir, did he ask you if you had a driver's license?
No, we did not, ma'am.
No, I didn't think so. Okay, your case is dismissed, that's all. To Suda, your complaint is that you and your family were nothing but kind to the defendant. She was having some difficulty, and she was unemployed several years ago. Her daughter and your daughter were friends since grade school, and you volunteered to give her a home.
Yes, ma'am.
When she was 16. How did you do in their home, the Suda home? Did you do okay?
Yes.
Did you graduate yet?
Oh, I graduate in a couple weeks.
What are you doing after graduation?
I want to go to college.
How did you do in high school?
I make good grades.
She's been AB honor roll all through high school.
Did you apply to college?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because the application fees are like $50 for each application, and my mom told me she'd help me pay for them, but she never helped me pay for it.
So, Mr. Suda, this is your lawsuit. Ms. Fraser lived with you for 2 years, and you got no support for her from her mother. You did not even seek support.
No, ma'am.
But then you found out that Ms. Hebb was getting support for Nikki from Nikki's father, and you feel as if that's unfair.
Somewhat, yes.
This is not rocket science, Ms. Hebb. How long have you been divorced from Nikki's father?
Since she was about 6 or 7.
Do you have other children?
Yes, ma'am.
Are the other children also the product of this marriage?
No, ma'am.
And how much do you receive from Nikki's father for her support?
$50 a week.
What did you do with the money since 2003?
When she has called and said that she didn't have any food in the house and she needed me to take her to eat, I would feed her. If she's needed personal hygiene items, I've taken her. I've paid her cell phone bills. And yes, I did tell her that I would pay for her application fees. She never came to me and said, I've applied here and I need
I'm
the
not
money."
worried about college application fees. How do you support yourself?
I'm a live-in nanny.
You think you have an obligation to support your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
So that the things you bought for her, the few toiletries you bought for her, or paying a cell phone bill, you did that for your daughter because you're her mother. That's what you do.
Yes, ma'am.
The $50 a week that you were getting from her father should have gone to the Suter family.
He never asked for support, or I would have given it to him.
Why does he have to ask? Did you ever say to him, Miss Hebb, Mr. Suter, I get money for Nikki's support from her father. It's not right that I keep it. I'm going to turn it over to you when I get it.
No, ma'am, I didn't. I instead, like I said, whenever she would call and said that she needed things, I would take care of her.
Well, that's what you did for her because you're her mother. She has two parents, a mother and a father. You're the mother. You work. If you have to take care of a few items, if you happen to take care of a few items for your daughter, that's very nice of you. The other $50 a week, if her father knew that she wasn't living in your home, did your father know you weren't living?
He just found out recently because I didn't have his number to get a hold of him.
If her father knew, I guarantee you, her father wouldn't have said, well, I'm going to send her money.
Her father has known. She's gone and seen him since she's lived with Mr. Suter.
I'm just curious. Not that I'm taking this for the truth of what you're going to tell me, but just my own curiosity. Did he ever say to you, if he knew that she wasn't living with you, I'd like to send the money to Mr. Suter?
No, ma'am.
Never did?
No, ma'am.
He must have had a lobotomy. Ms. Hebb, this is not a difficult case. It doesn't even test my academic prowess. The last 2 years, your daughter has been living with the Suter family, and you've collected $50 a week, roughly $2,500 a year. The Suters are suing you for $5,000 because that's approximately what you've collected over the time that your daughter has been living with the Suters from her father, and that money should have been turned over to the Suter family immediately. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $5,000. That's all. Make those college applications.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
To your complaint, you were forced to move out early.
Yes.
You want prorated rent.
Yes.
You certainly want your security deposit back. And you want compensation for what you say were very nasty things that the defendant posted about you on the internet.
That's correct.
The defendant says that you chose to move out. You don't get compensated for choosing to leave before the end of the 30 days. That your cat did some damage to the rug, so you don't get your security back. And she acknowledges she wrote nasty things about you on the internet, but she said everything she wrote about you was the truth, and the truth is a perfect defense.
True.
When did you move into this room, Ms. Rose?
On May 1st. On April 22nd, I answered an ad.
Do you recall what it said?
It said that I was going to be a roommate, that it was $400 for the rent, that she had 3 cats, and 1 more would be great. And
no, just a second. That's not what the ad said.
Yes, it did. It said she had 3 cats and 1 more would be great.
Oh, that's what the ad said?
Yes.
It must be a very long ad. Where was it?
Craigslist.com.
.org.
.org. Correction. Tell me what happened when you went and looked in the house.
It was 11 o'clock at night. She said that it was dirty, but she would clean it, and that the hot water in the sink was broken, the pipe, but she would fix it before I moved in, and the toilet that I was renting out with the bathroom was broken as well, but that would be fixed as well.
How many rooms did you look at?
3 different rooms, and this is the one that I chose.
This is the one that had a broken sink, a broken toilet, and was filthy. Is the one that you chose, Miss Rose?
Actually, it was the rent. It was cheaper than normal. Others were asking for $650, so I figured I was only going to be here till the summer. It should not be an issue.
Was the toilet fixed?
No, the toilet was never fixed, and neither was the hot water, which I had to eat out because I couldn't wash dishes. There were maggots in the sink. There were roaches, flies.
Who else lived in the house?
It was supposed to be just myself and Sheena, and she brought her crackhead mother in, who has no teeth and has tattoos everywhere, who she failed to mention was an ex-convict who had been in jail for 12 years for a violent crime. Not only that, but...
Just a second. When you moved in May 1st, was her mother there?
No, her mother was not there.
When did her mother move in?
Her mother started coming by in the middle of May and started hanging out, bringing her other crackhead friends who had no teeth.
I'm a dentist's daughter. Let's not talk about the teeth. Let's talk about the drugs.
Okay.
What makes you think that she was using crack?
Because I came home the night before I moved out, and her friend were smoking crack in the living room.
That would give me a clue.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was your mother incarcerated for, Miss Michoud?
I believe it was theft, and she violated her parole several times.
She violated her parole because of her drug use?
No, it had to do with the fact that she wasn't seeing her probation officer like she was supposed to when she was released early.
Listen, if you're released early and you want to stay out of jail, unless you're involved with drugs, you usually see a probation officer.
Well, actually, the problem was that she moved back to Colorado without asking her probation officer, and she stayed out there for 3 years.
Well, that would be a problem.
Yes, obviously, as the rule was that she was supposed to keep in contact.
How long was she incarcerated?
I'm not sure. I never lived with my mom as a child, so.
When was she released from prison?
At least 5 years ago.
How come she started to come to your house?
Because I previously, before she had ever moved in, had paid my mom to come to my house to clean my apartment because I work 18-hour days. I have two different jobs. I work a bar job at night, and during the day I'm a special effects makeup artist. I work very hard, and I don't have time to spend, even if it is 4 hours that I get to sleep, to spend cleaning up my apartment.
You mean there's nobody else that could clean your apartment other than your mother?
Well, I don't trust anybody else to come into my apartment because I have many things that are worth a lot of money.
So what you're telling me is you trust your mother?
Yes, I do.
The mother who she says, and I believe her,
yes,
invited somebody into your home and they were smoking dope in your house.
Nobody else other than my mom was invited into my home.
Well, she did. Bring somebody else into your home.
I had never seen the person.
Well, I'm telling you,
she did.
She did, so your judgment wasn't very good. In choosing your mother, listen to me, your judgment wasn't very good in choosing your mother to clean your house.
I believe my judgment was just fine. Aside from the fact that she had been incarcerated before, it doesn't mean that she would do anything like that again.
Well, but she brought somebody, listen to me, she brought somebody into your house and they were smoking dope in your house.
I'm glad you believe her, but I don't know that that's true. I know that my mom has not been on drugs for many years. I know that she does have permanent psychosis because of doing drugs for many years, and that is true. But she's not a current drug user, otherwise I wouldn't bring her into my house because I wouldn't trust her around my stuff personally.
Ms. Michoud, that's your problem. You want to have this unabiding faith in your mother with whom you say you never resided when you were growing up, who was incarcerated most of that time. That's up to you. I absolutely, 100% believe her when she says that she came home the day before she moved out and your mother was in the house smoking dope, which, as far as I'm concerned, gives her the right to leave in the middle of the month.
Well,
I'm speaking. What day of the month did you move out?
It was the 18th.
So you want prorated rent for the 12 days that you weren't there?
That's correct.
Okay, and how much does that come to?
$146.50.
My mother had not moved in at that point. She was a guest of mine.
Excuse me?
Shh. Listen to me. She doesn't. Listen to me very carefully, Miss Michoud. She doesn't. Listen, try to listen. I know you got a lot going on in your hair and your face, everything else, but try to pay attention. She doesn't have to live in your house. You have invited a guest into your home, your mother, who was involved in behavior that I believe could have endangered someone else who was living in the house. If the police had come to your house and found your mother and someone else in possession of crack cocaine in your house, everyone in the house would have been involved in that drug sweep. So she was very smart to move out. And since you have acknowledged that you invited your mother into the house for the purposes of cleaning, you can't say she had no right to move. She did have a right to move. And since you invited this problem into your house, you have to compensate her for the 12 days in rent that she did not have use and enjoyment of her room. Well, that's my ruling. You may not like it. That's why you go to
her boyfriend.
That's
is a
why
speed addict,
I'm speaking.
And he's in
listen,
my and he's
listen
staying
to
in
me.
my house.
Listen to me very
For
carefully.
the whole time she was there.
Listen to me very carefully, madam. I don't know where else you work or what else you do to enhance your senses, but in my courtroom, I speak, I listen.
Obviously, you don't listen very well.
You know, I'm listening. You're not hearing. what I'm saying because you don't like the answer. How much is your security?
$200. I have a copy of the sublease as well.
Can I see it, please?
And I have a copy of the letter she told me to vacate immediately.
Okay.
She wanted me to pay for her mother's rent for the next month.
Listen. Did you write this letter? There will be a $500 rent increase for your bedroom and private bathroom starting July 1st. Did you write this?
Yes, that's what
All right, good.
Hutchinson told me to do.
$146.50 and $200 for your security deposit. Do you have any pictures of the ruined rug that was allegedly caused by her cats?
No, but
Good. Now I would like to see what was written on the internet.
This is a networking site that my coworkers, my supervisors and boss, as well as my family and friends read. I was contacted by one of my coworkers.
Well, the one thing I do know for sure, Miss Michoud, is that you have a filthy mouth.
Thank you.
And I assume that you work in this town?
Yes, I do.
Good. I certainly hope that enough people, since we do have a reasonable audience in this town, watch this and know that I personally am offended that a woman would use the kind of vulgarities that you do written. I don't think, quite frankly, Miss Rose, that any fair-minded, reasonable person would accept anything that you wrote here as true.
Oh, of course not.
Because she clearly is a demented, sick girl. I don't know how she finds work in this town, but clearly there are a lot of demented, sick people who want demented, sick employees. That's the problem here sometimes. I can't judge that. Clearly, this is miserable. I'm not going to ask her how she's going to establish to my satisfaction that you committed the kinds of sex acts that she attributes to you, because certainly you don't want that, and I wouldn't, because it's really unseemly. Suffice, I'm speaking! I'm speaking!
Am I going to speak at all this?
No, go speak outside. Somebody who wants to hear you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $346.50. Thank you.
Toodles.
Was a friend of yours somehow got hold of your car and caused damage on 3 separate occasions in one night.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez says that you were so drunk that night that you don't remember that you were driving and you caused the damage to your own car.
Not true.
Right?
Right.
And you are just friends?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I was messing
I don't
around
want to
with her for a
guess
while.
what I'm going to say anything. I'm asking you, are you just friends or are you more than friends?
Yes, we were just friends.
Not intimate?
Yes, we were intimate a couple times.
Well, Bird is my friend. We have never been intimate. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand the difference? How old are you?
21.
How old are you?
35.
All right. So that's a little bit of a difference. Okay, so you were intimate friends. That's a new category of friends. There were people who were intimate, then there were friends, and then somewhere in the middle there were intimate friends. You are one of those. When did this assault on your car take place?
June 5th.
Okay. And what were you doing out with Mr. Gonzalez?
Actually, I was home when he called me and asked me to give him and his friend Mike a ride home. And I went.
Why did they need a ride home?
I didn't ask.
And you said, fine, I'll come and pick you up and give you a ride home.
Sure.
Keep going.
When I got to the restaurant, the establishment, he was there with 3 other gentlemen. They were there eating and drinking, and I ordered a margarita, and we were there for about an hour and a half.
How many margaritas did you have?
Just one, Your Honor. And then from there, they wanted to take off, and we went to a billiards place where we were there only a half hour. I played billiards with one of the other gentlemen that was there with them. They wanted to leave. We went to another local establishment, a local bar.
So you were playing chauffeur that night?
Pretty much.
So the reason for the phone call was you guys wanted to drink and you needed somebody to chauffeur you around.
Yes.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
What did you say to her?
I asked her for a ride because we had all been drinking.
Well, a ride to take you home is one thing. A ride to schlep you from one place to another so you continue to drink is something entirely different.
Oh, well, we planned on going home. But when she got there, she started drinking with us, and we said, well, you feel like going somewhere else? She said, yeah, so we went.
Keep going, Miss Castillo.
When we left that establishment, we dropped off his other friend, the one that they went in a car with, to his car, to his vehicle, and from there I went to a local gas station. And I went there, I got off, left the keys in the ignition, paid gas to the pump where I was parked at. When I came out, my car was gone. I panicked. I was looking around the parking lot, looking to see where they were. I gave them time. I'm thinking maybe it's a practical joke. Maybe they're out there looking at me, freaking out. I gave them about 15, 20 minutes, and at that point, I had dialed 911 to report the car stolen.
when I looked up, he was driving back in the car with his friend still in the car. I was yelling at him. He refused to get out of the driver's side and said he was going to drive himself and his friends home. Said, fine. I pumped the gas in my car, got in the passenger side, and he drove his first friend home. He drove recklessly to the point where that friend didn't even wait till the car came to a complete stop. He literally jumped out of the car before he stopped the car in motion. Okay, and he tells me that's what you get for hanging out with a 21-year-old. He yells that through the window.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah. He speeds off, and I'm yelling and telling him to stop, get out of the car. He doesn't get off the car. Drives down a road where there's construction on both sides of the road. There's bolted cones with concrete dividers on both sides of the road. He's driving recklessly. He's hitting these cones. I counted 8. When I seen him headed towards the concrete divider, I literally had to put my hand on the steering wheel to avoid a real major crash. When I did that, he still didn't stop. He had all green lights for whatever reason. We drove to his house. We go into his house. I told him I wanted some resolve. I wanted something in writing. He tells me to go wait.
Just a second. You went into his house. And what happened when you got into his house?
We were talking.
Look at me. Now here, you see, I can tell when somebody is not giving me the accurate story. So don't start embellishing now what you think you want to tell me. What happened when you went into his house?
We talked. I told him I wanted...
What did you say to him?
I told him I wanted something in writing. I asked him, how are we going to handle the situation?
What situation?
About him hitting the car. I hadn't seen the damages to the car yet. I knew he was hitting the pylons, and I knew he had already hit, there was some damage, but I hadn't actually inspected the car at this point. So then he brushes me off, goes into the back room, talks to his friend Mike, then he tells me to wait for him in my car outside, and we'll talk some more. So there I go. I walked outside of the house, went into the car, sat in my car, and at this point I see him getting in Mike's car, and they're driving away. So I turned on my car, I followed them to an apartment complex, all the way across town. And at this point, I'm looking for my cell phone, which I couldn't find, somewhere on the floor.
Because you're drunk?
That's not true. And when we got there, I followed them to a dead end, and I had to back up. I backed up so that they can straighten out. They were there in the car for about 5 minutes, and then Mr. Gonzalez gets off the car, comes towards my car. In the meantime, his friend Mike drives off, tells me to move over so we could talk. Then he's telling me that he had no reason to bow down to me like I was some princess, that that's the reason why he doesn't have a valid license, because he can't drive. And he puts the car in reverse, backs it into the wall, then he drives off.
So you let him get into the driver's side of the car, according to you, and you moved over. I assume you have a bench seat in the front?
It's not a bench seat, no.
What is it?
Two separate seats.
It's two separate seats. So you had to crawl over, and where's the whatever?
It's right there in the center.
It's in the middle.
It's in the middle.
Yeah.
So you had to sort of get your leg over there, and he opened up the driver's side, unless you got out of the driver's side and walked around to the passenger side, so you scooted over somehow. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, I did.
You scooted over somehow and let him in.
I didn't have a choice. He was practically sitting on my lap.
Miss Castillo.
Well, I still scooted over.
Miss Castillo, my dear, you're a 35-year-old woman. You had a choice. As soon as he got to his house and you dropped him off, instead of following him across town to an apartment complex in a dead-end street, you call 911. And you say, this man got into my car, took my car, damaged my car. I want to report the damage to my car. Because according to you, you went into his house, Miss Castillo, to get him to sign a piece of paper. Did he sign it?
No.
Should have had some clue that he was not going to take responsibility for what he had done to your car. Is that right?
No.
You thought he was going to take responsibility, and that's why he got into Mike's car and drove away?
No, that's why I followed him, because I didn't know if he was going to drop him off somewhere and disappear. But when I tried to look for my cell phone, I couldn't find it. It wasn't on in my purse.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez, go.
My turn?
That's why I'm looking at you.
Yeah, after we left the first establishment, we went to another bar. We did have about 3 pictures. When we left, she asked me to drive because she had been drinking. I said, no, there's no way I'm going to drive. I have a DUI. I'll pick up another one, and I'm in trouble.
I don't want you to speak.
So I told her no. She asked everybody to drive, actually, but she pestered me about it. I didn't drive. When we went to the gas station, nobody took her car. She came back, put gas. We dropped off my friend. We dropped off another friend, went to our house. She followed me inside, and we were there for about 2 hours. And she didn't ask me.
What were you doing it for the 2 hours in your house?
We were playing intimate friendship. And after that...
You're a fast learner.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Then after that, I told her to leave because we had to drop off one of my buddy Mike's girlfriend that had just got there. And I didn't want to see her anymore. And she got upset and was telling me things about me and her. And I told her, I'm not with you. I don't want to be with you. I don't want to have nothing to do with you.
This is after you played intimate friendship?
Yes.
Of course. And then after that, she went to her car. We left. About halfway to our destination, we realized she was following us. We turned into the apartments where we were supposed to be. She followed us in, and you have to turn like zigzag. So we parked on the side, and as soon as she came in, I got off the car and told her why she was following me, and I was pretty upset. While she mashes out in reverse, boom, hits a wall, and I ran around the side of the car to the driver's side because I was pissed. I was telling her things, you know, I probably shouldn't have been saying. But then she takes off forward and hits the front side of her car on one of those big poles.
Okay. Now, I see that you have something over there, Ms. Castillo. I'd like you to tell me what it is.
This is a tape recorder where he leaves me a voice message the day after the incident where he admits he took off in my car without me.
Oh, I'd like to hear that. That I would like to hear, and I would like you to give it to Officer Burtz because I want to listen to it very carefully. You wouldn't have done that, sir.
No.
Is that right?
No, that's not my voice.
Oh. Let's see.
076. Received June 6th at 7:19.
Hey, when I left you yesterday, when you left at the night, your car was fine. I don't know what you're tripping on. I didn't do nothing to your car. I didn't hit nothing, and after I took off, I only took off once without you. And when I came back, your car was fine. I didn't hit nothing, so I don't know why you're going to be mad at me. But if you're all right, then late.
Erase.
That is your voice, Mr. Gonzalez?
That is not my voice.
Sure it is.
Does that even admit that I was driving?
Yeah, it said that I only took off in your car once, and I didn't do any damage to your car.
Well, that wasn't me. I haven't driven.
I only
in a long
took
time.
off. Listen to me. This is what it says.
Okay.
And you know what's logical, Mr. Gonzalez, because you're
What's
a smart young man.
Yes.
If she was going to falsify this and have somebody else pretend that they were you,
yes,
she would have had this person say, listen, I'm sorry I did all the damage to your car. I'll pay you for it.
Yes.
Wouldn't have had them say, listen, I didn't damage your car. I took off with it once and I brought it back. Nothing happened to it. So I don't know what you're complaining about. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Good. So this is your voice, and you acknowledge that you took off once with her car, but you say, I didn't cause any damage to your car. That I believe. So you see, you shouldn't fib.
Okay.
Because if you fib, then I can doubt everything that you're telling me. Now, Miss Castillo, I don't believe you damaged your car. I think that you were really angry, and I think that if your car got damaged, you did it, or you let him drive your car. Now, if you're going to choose playmates, you got to choose playmates that are somehow equal to you. These young men on that night in June were doing nothing more than using you as a chauffeur. I am not comfortable enough with your story to find that Mr. Gonzalez, as outrageous as his behavior might be, and however morally reprehensible his behavior might be, is responsible for the damage to your car, Ms. Castillo. So your complaint is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
It's just one of those.
I will pay attention.
Okay. Miss Goodall was Miss Elder's nanny.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to the complaint, Miss Elder, according to her, received a check from some relative. And the check, for some reason, was made out to Miss Goodall, because according to Miss Elder, this relative was old. And she asked Miss Goodall to cash the check. Miss Goodall deposited the check for $1,850 in her checking account, and then slowly, over the course of several days, withdrew the money and gave it to Miss Elder. It turns out that the check bounced. Now, Miss Elder got the cash and spent it.
Of course.
Miss Goodall got the shaft because her bank wants their money.
Sure.
Miss Elder is outraged that Miss Goodall is suing her, and she's going to explain why. Go.
Your Honor, I didn't write those checks. They were not in my name, they were in her name. I spoke to my relative over the phone. I explained to him that we were having a nanny for my brother's wedding, and he offered to pay expenses and nanny expenses. And I said,
okay. Just a minute. You're adding that to your answer, by the way. That's not what you said in your answer. What you said in your answer was that a relative of your husband's agreed to help you with trip expenses. Not nanny expenses, trip expenses.
Trip and nanny expenses, Your Honor.
Listen to me. Correct?
Yes,
because
Your
you say this is a relative of your husband's.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I assume your husband has a job?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what about you?
I'm a stay-at-home mom of 2.
You're a stay-at-home mom. Do you have a home?
We live in an apartment.
Do you pay rent?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have a car?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your husband has a job?
Yes, Your Honor.
You pay telephone, gas, electric?
Yes, Your Honor.
You pay them by check or cash?
We pay them by money order.
So your husband gets his paycheck, and what does he do with it?
We go.
Don't think fast. What does he do with his paycheck?
He cashes it.
Where?
At the bank.
What bank?
Wells Fargo.
Is that where you keep your account? You can't cash a check there unless
It's drawn on there.
What kind of work does he do?
A grocer. He's a grocery manager.
How long has he worked there?
11 years.
Is there any reason why you don't have a checking account? Is not an answer. Most people have a reason. If they have a job for 11 years, they have a wife, they have 2 children, they have an apartment, they have gas, electric, telephone. Most people have checking accounts. So don't give me an answer that's not going to sit well with me, Miss Elder. Why don't you have a checking account?
We're unable to get one.
Why?
Bankruptcy.
They won't give you a checking account because you have a bankruptcy?
In the last 2 years, yes, Your Honor.
No, my dear. You may not be able to get a checking account because you've committed bank fraud before. That's a possibility.
I've never done that before, Your Honor.
Maybe your husband has.
No, he's not, Your Honor.
Well, if you have a bankruptcy, you can still get a checking account. All you have to do is put money in it.
We have a savings account.
Well, you have a savings account. Well, then you can open up a checking account in the same bank that you have a savings account in. So there's a reason why you don't have a checking account. You have to do the explanation to me how you got the money, she got the shaft, and how she has nerve to sue you. You have an answer?
No, Your Honor.
So why didn't you give her money back?
Because I don't have that money. I didn't give it to her.
She wasn't paid by your relative. There's a difference if your relative said, I'm going to pay your nanny, and he gives her a bad check. She cashed the check and gave the cash to you. Don't you catch the difference?
I catch the difference, Your Honor, but it wasn't, she didn't give me the whole cash.
How much money did she give you? How much money did you give her?
I gave her $1,900, Your Honor.
I have record of $1,500.
So, let's say I believe you now that we're getting to $1,500. She gave you the cash. Why shouldn't you give it back to her if the check was bad?
Well, my relative or my husband's relative should give it to her, not I.
Can I say something? I have record that shows that this was from her account, not from her relative.
Just a second. Maybe the records that you have are going to help me figure out whether she's a thief or dumb.
Okay.
Let me see.
Right.
Bakersfield Police Department advised that the account on which the check was drawn belonged to Christopher and Wendy Elder. However, the account was closed by the bank in August 2001. That makes you a thief instead of just stupid. Now, that's from the police department.
Well, they didn't talk to me at all.
I don't care whether they don't have to talk to you. Explain it to me. The account had been yours. It was closed in 2001.
I don't see how that's possible. We have record that it's still open.
Is what you're telling me now that you acknowledge this is your account? Listen to me, Miss Elder. I'm going to advise you right now, because I feel as if it's my responsibility to advise you, that we are taping this, and that I plan on sending this tape to the local law enforcement authority in Bakersfield. So far, you are very close to admitting to bank fraud. And I feel as if without having the benefit of consulting with an attorney, you would do very well to say to me, I don't think I want to answer these questions anymore, Judge. Because what you say in your answer was, listen, it wasn't my bank account, it was my relative's thing about it. Now we come to a fact from your mouth that it was a bank account that belonged to you and your husband. You said, and my relative. Maybe, maybe not. But if it belonged to the three of you and a bad check was written on it and you knew that it was an account that had no funds in it, that's bank fraud, for which you can go to jail. And my sense is, if you are a woman who doesn't have a checking account and who has a husband who's worked in the same place for 11 years, you are no stranger to problems with banks. Do you follow my drift?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want to answer my questions anymore?
No, Your Honor.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,900. That's all. Stories on the lease.
I am the signatory on the lease, and then when she moved in, I had to sign a notice to change my rent, which raised my rent $800 a month for having a roommate.
Can I see that, please? Thank you. Your complaint alleges that after she moved in, she did pay the rent for a period of time, and then she lost her job.
Right, that's correct.
And you took on additional work responsibilities to cover the rent,
Yeah,
with her promise that she would pay you back. She not only didn't pay you back, but according to you, she has since moved out and moved in with your...
Yeah.
Miss Hurst says that, A, you were finished with the boyfriend before she moved in with him, and second, that she did the chores around the house in exchange for the rent, and there was never an agreement to pay you back.
Chores for the rent?
Shh, just a second. Okay. So I have a few questions.
Okay.
When did this roommate relationship begin?
She moved in on September 1st of last year.
How long did you know her prior to her moving in?
A couple of years. We worked together.
What prompted her to move in with you?
Well, we were talking in the lunchroom one day, and she was telling me that she wasn't real happy with her living arrangement, and my rent was $1,200 a month. But it was a big house, and it was just me and my dogs. And so, you know, I told her I would check into it. I didn't know how it would happen as far as the lease goes. I'd have to check with my landlord. And I did that, and then I talked to her the following week. Even though the rent would be raised $800 a month, I would be paying $200 less, and she would be paying about, I don't know, maybe less than what she was paying before.
Okay, great. So you moved in September of 2004?
Yes.
When did you pay rent?
I paid rent for September, October, and November, and I paid $300 in December.
If you had paid rent, how much would you have paid from December until you moved out?
$5,000.
Is that right?
Yeah, but she made a $300 payment in December, and then in April she gave me $200, so it was
Came down to
$4,500.
Well, I'd like you to explain to me what happened.
Well, I met Donna's ex-boyfriend.
He wasn't my ex then.
Don't. I'm speaking to her. Go ahead.
I met Donna's now ex-boyfriend in November, and they had broken up, and we hit it off, and we started dating, and I didn't feel that I needed to really tell her at the time because she
Let's skip over the boyfriend and get to the rent.
I got laid off in December.
Yes.
And I was looking for a job, and I didn't find another one until April.
Yes.
And that's why I didn't pay rent.
Well, what did you do all day?
I was looking for work, and I would clean the house, and...
Well, who did you expect to pay your rent?
I figured I'd get another job.
So you owe her the money.
She was happy with the way things were working. No money was mentioned until I told her about me seeing her ex-boyfriend.
Madam, she's not related to you, is she?
No.
Could you move your hair? I can't see both of your eyes. Thank you very much. I mean, why would you think that this lady has the responsibility to take care of you? Forget the fact that you started to date her boyfriend. I don't even care about that. Because, you know, when it comes to issues of the heart, who knows what happens? Why would you think this lady's responsibility is to take care of you?
I don't think it's her responsibility. I thought she was helping me out as a
Why?
friend.
Because you moved there, her rent practically doubled. Duh.
She didn't say anything until I brought up the fact that I was dating her ex-boyfriend.
She owed me the money for the rent, and she knows she did.
owes you the money for the rent.
And on top of that, then she steals my boyfriend. She met him 2 months before she ever lost her job.
Listen, nobody steals a boyfriend.
They can have each other.
Right. Nobody steals somebody, not these days. If he wanted to go, he went, and good riddance to him, right?
Yeah.
And good riddance to her?
But it's still
She owes you $4,500. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,500. Thank you, that's all. It's your claim that you made a loan to her when she was in some financial distress with her rent.
Yes.
And then subsequently, she took some money out of your wallet.
Yes.
Without your permission. The total of that is $800. Ms. Walters says that you were always generous, that there was never any... Stop tapping. There was never any intention to create a loan situation with regard to this rent money, and that you told her, ultimately, that she could have the $300 that she took out of your wallet. When were you and the defendant seeing each other, sir?
I would say late in the year, last year.
I didn't meet you till January.
January? Okay.
Yes.
So about that time.
Around January of 2005?
Mm-hmm.
And how long were you dating?
A few months, maybe till March or April.
It was only till March.
And that's incorrect because of the loan.
When did you make this $500 loan?
On April 1st.
Tell me about the conversation that you had.
I was at work, and she called me saying that her rent's due. Her check hasn't come from her boyfriend.
From her boyfriend?
Not her boyfriend, but she has like a...
Baby's father.
Her baby's father, yeah.
You get child support from your child's father?
Yes.
For the child?
Yes.
How old is that child?
21 months.
Did you call him on April 1st indicating to him that you were short on rent money?
Yes, I did. And he had always given me money. Okay.
You called him and said what?
That I needed help paying my rent and if I could borrow some money or if he could lend me money because he had always given me money before.
And what did he say to you?
He said, of course.
And he wrote out a check?
Actually, he gave me cash.
How much cash did he give you?
$500. And I paid my rent.
Good. So why don't you pay him back?
Because then later on he told me that I didn't have to pay him back. And I thought because he would always give me money, as he placed an ad, who wants $300 to go for a date because he couldn't get a date, I thought that maybe I didn't need to pay him back.
Miss Walters.
Yes.
You just said to me that you called him up and said, could I borrow $500 from you?
Yes.
And he said yes.
Yes, and then I couldn't pay him back when he wanted me to pay him back. And
Just
then,
a sec. Okay. Why couldn't you pay him back?
Well, I offered to pay him back, and he told me I didn't have to.
So when did you offer to pay him back?
Probably in May.
What did he say when you offered him the money?
He told me I didn't have to pay him back.
Tell me where you were.
At my house.
What time of the day or evening?
It must have been the middle of the day because he was at work.
So you called him on the phone?
I think I emailed him.
Well, try to think.
I emailed him because that's how I communicated with him mostly. I told him that I was short on rent and that I should...
No. I'm talking about when you were going to pay him back. You said you had the money.
Oh, I told him that I had the money, that I finally got in the check and that I could pay him back.
So you emailed him again?
Yes.
Ditzy. And what did he say when you emailed him at work and said, I now have the $500?
He told me okay, and then he never came to get it, and I was like, when are you going to come get it? And we weren't talking really at this point anymore. And then eventually I was like, okay, and he never paid it back. I mean, I never paid it back.
Did you think this was going to be easy, this double talk?
No.
Where did he say to you in all of this baloney that you just gave me, madam, you don't have to pay it back?
I have emails probably somewhere saved that I didn't have to pay him back.
Well, did you think that you were coming here today to a cotillion?
No.
If you have emails from him that you say you have saved, saying that you don't have to pay him back, where were you saving them? What were you saving them for? You were going to line a hope chest with them? No. This is where you're supposed to bring them, Miss Walters.
I don't have an actual computer. I use my phone. It has a computer in it. So I couldn't print them out or anything like that.
Does the father of your child visit with him?
Yes.
What does he do?
He's a catering manager.
Well, maybe between the two of you, the child has a chance.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so she owes you $500 for rent, Mr. Holcomb.
Yes.
Now let's get to the other $300. Could you tell me how that came about?
Well,
what do you do for a living, by the way?
Oh, I'm a computer programmer.
What did you have to talk to her about?
In general?
In anything. Did you talk about anything?
Yeah. Okay. We had a relationship.
He cheated on his wife for 3 months. That's what he did.
That's a possibility, Miss Walters. I just wanted to know if he had a conversation with you about anything.
Yeah.
All right. Let me hear the $300, Mr. Holcomb.
Okay, so after the rent situation, I wanted to get back the money. So I stayed friends with her, hoping to get the money back. And I told her, it's for the allowance for our household. And she understood that, and she was going to give it back to me. But I had to, walk around with kid gloves, you know what I'm saying? Because otherwise she would be, temperamental and say...
Temperamental.
Well, she would just kind of give me that impression.
Get to the $300, sir.
Okay, so we went to Black Angus, and we had dinner that night, and we had a few drinks. We went to my car. I put my wallet in the crevice right below the stereo, and then I started my car, and she grabbed the wallet. And I grabbed it too, because her personality, right? So we're tugging, and she's pretty strong. I mean, she grabbed that wallet, pulled it to her, away from me, and she looked aside, and she saw $500. Well, she threw the wallet back at me, stuffed the $500 down her shirt, and I said, you better give that back to me. I was arguing with her. And she was being teasing and laughing and stuff. And she also had a few drinks, so she was kind of out of it in a sense. And I was like, come on, that's my money. I gave her reasons, family, all that.
What family, Mr. Holcomb? My wife and children? Yes. How many children do you have, sir?
4.
Were you living at home at the time?
Yes.
Are you living at home now?
Right now, I'm not at home, no.
Where are you living now?
Here in Burbank.
Alone?
No, actually with my father.
That's what he told me in the first place.
When did you leave home?
Well, we bought a house in Montana, and we just settled in at the end of this month, last month, and I've been here for about 2 weeks now, and my wife and family are in Montana.
And they intend to stay there?
Mm-hmm.
And you intend to stay here?
I'm not sure yet.
If your wife is smart, she'll stay in Montana.
Yeah.
All right. So she gave you back $200 of the $500 that she stuffed in her blouse?
Yeah, it was a big argument, and she finally threw money at me.
When you drove her home that night, where did you go?
Down to her studio apartment in Van Nuys.
Did you sleep over?
No.
No.
Have you been back to her apartment since?
Yes.
When?
We still were hanging out.
What does that mean, you're still hanging out?
We were still friends. After I found out he was married and everything that was a lie, I still wanted to be his friend because he wasn't allowed to have any friends. So, and he got along with my kid, and he was really nice. He helped me out, and when I needed help, he bought me a refrigerator, he bought me a camera, he bought me a bunch of stuff, he helped me with bills. He's probably given me, I don't know, $3,000 in total, but he's suing me for this $800.
Why do you think that is?
Because his wife found out.
So?
So she got mad. So he's suing me for what she found out about.
Miss Walters, do you think that Mr. Holcomb's wife would want him to sue you on a television program that is viewed by 10 million people in order to get back a fraction of the amount of money over the course of the few months that you dated?
I've only talked to her on the phone once, but the way he talks about her, probably. She doesn't seem that bright.
She doesn't seem that bright?
No.
Out of the frying pan. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. Give him back his money, Miss Walters. That's all. Okay. Yellow pages, and you found a plumber, the defendant, and asked him to go over and take a look and see what the problem was. So far, is that about right?
That's right.
He went over there and he called you and he told you what he thought the problem was and what it would take to fix it.
That's correct.
You paid him for his service call. You eventually found somebody else to fix the problem, paid him less money, and it is your claim that because Mr. Chance was angry that he didn't get the job, he harassed you in a vindictive way by going over and frightening your tenants, telling them that things were dangerous as a result of the shoddy workmanship that was being done in their building. Now, when did you have a leak in your building?
That was July 17th.
Who had a leak in their apartment?
Terry James.
Step up. Miss James, tell me what happened in your apartment on the 17th of July.
I had a leak by the bedroom window.
Near the bedroom window?
Yeah, down by the floor, by the baseboard.
Had it been raining that day?
Nope. But the lawn man had watered and watered and watered, and he had forgot to leave the water on.
So it was clear water that was coming through?
Yes.
And you called the landlord?
Yes.
All right, is that what brought you to the apartment, Mr. Chance?
No, it's not.
Well, what brought you to the apartment, sir?
Well, Suzanne Brown gave us a call on the 17th, and we went out to the property and did an inspection of the property. When we entered the tenant's unit, we found that the tub was full of sewage. There was about...
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Shh, just a second. The bathtub?
The bathtub
was full of sewage?
Was full of sewage.
Is that right?
No, not full of
sewage. Is that right?
That's a lie. That's a lie. There was no sewage in the tub at all. He wasn't even the man that came out. The man that came out, he ain't even here, I guess.
Really?
The man that came out walked around the house, went around to the front, got on the phone and called this man.
Did he come at that point?
No, he didn't. He never showed up. He showed
Not
up.
that day?
No.
Is that right, sir?
I was there on the 17th of July. I did not go in her unit. But
Just a minute. So you didn't go into her unit?
I did not.
So you didn't see anything in her unit on the 17th of July?
I saw sewage all around the perimeter of the outside of the building.
You did not go into her unit on the 17th?
I did not.
Good. Do you have a copy of the receipt that you got?
Yes, I do.
His company?
He sent that to me.
Okay. They say that in the front unit, they have water standing in the tub. Someone has inserted the word sewer water standing in the tub in this. This is the way you received it?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, when did you call somebody else? On what date?
I had actually called, there's a plumber that I always use. I had actually called him. The problem was that when I found out about the leak, it was a Sunday, and he wasn't available, and I wasn't sure how big it was, and I wanted to fix the issue.
Is this your regular plumber?
Yes.
Sit down. Step up, sir. Tell me your name.
My name's Mike Howard.
How long have you been working for the plaintiff?
Oh, probably since about '02.
You familiar with this unit?
Yes.
When did you go out to the unit?
The day after, the Monday.
Tell me what you found when you went out there on the 18th of July.
The water from the sprinklers had went over the foundation.
Your Honor.
Where had it entered the home?
It had came up over the foundation and ran into the area that was wet.
Carpeting wet?
Yes.
Around the baseboards?
Yes.
Did you find anything else wrong with the house?
The bathtub had about, I'd say about 1.5 inches of water in it that just wouldn't drain.
So the water that was standing in the tub was water that had been standing there because of a clogged drain?
Correct.
What did you use to clean out the drain?
Snake.
How much did you charge the plaintiff to do the whole job?
$2,500.
What did you charge her the $2,500 for?
We dug a place approximately 2 foot wide around the perimeter of the home. It was 90 foot long, and we poured concrete in there.
And what was that supposed to do?
It stopped the water from entering the home at the foundation.
You mean from the sprinkler system?
It was just a hose, but yeah.
What was the estimate that the defendant gave you to fix the problem?
The defendant told me it would be $45,000 for him to come in and dig out the entire concrete floor, and that my tenants would have to evacuate the premises. And the problem was that nobody had actually done any tests. The defendant never actually did any tests. All they did was walk the perimeter of the property, and actually he didn't even do that. He had someone else do that, and came to the conclusion that it would be $45,000, that I needed to call my insurance company and make sure that I had him there, because the insurance company might not believe me, and that all three of us could meet and he could convince them that this is what needed to be done and get them to pay for it.
Now, after you decided not to hire him and you decided to hire Mr. Howard?
Correct.
Tell me what you claim he did to harass you and your tenants.
Well, on that Monday, when he had gone out and he had started working on it, when I came back that night, I had received numerous calls from Terry James, and I had 2 messages from Tony Chance. The first one said, you know, I tried to run your credit card for the $69 service charge, and either you gave me the wrong number or I wrote it down wrong, and you really need to give me a call as soon as possible, otherwise we're going to have problems. The second message I got said that, I still haven't heard from you. You must be avoiding me. And by the way, I happened to go out to the property today, and I saw that you had some repairs going on there, and I just want to let you know that that was a really bad move on your part, and that now I'm going to have to contact the Sacramento Housing Authority and let them know what's going on over there. I'm going to put a full written report together to turn you in. And so to me, it was obviously, he was vindictive. I couldn't believe the message that I got. I was completely freaked out, and Terry said that he had been by there.
Don't.
Okay.
Step up. You could sit down. Did Mr. Chance come back to the house?
Yes, he came back on Monday.
He spoke to you?
Yes, he did.
What did he say to you?
Oh, my God. What is this? You mean to tell me they put concrete around the house? The sewage problem is not done. The pipes is busted. You guys are going to die. You guys need to get out right now. You guys should vacate the place. You guys mean to tell me you're not out of there? And then he came back on Tuesday and scared my son. Had my son all upset, talking about we should have been out of there, we gonna die, we go to sleep, we gonna die, we should have been moved out of there.
Okay. Since July 18th or 19th, have you had any other problems in your home?
No, I haven't.
Any other water?
Nothing's wrong.
Are you friendly with the other tenants?
Yes, I am. Very friendly.
Anybody else have any water problems that you know of?
Nobody has any problems on the property.
I guess you were wrong.
I don't think so, Your Honor.
I guess you were wrong. Did you write a report to any housing authority with regard to what you found?
No, I did not.
Ms. Brown says that that's what you threatened to do. Is that what you threatened to do, Mr. Chance?
I never threatened to do anything.
Did you indicate that that's what you were going to do?
No, I did not.
What did you say?
I said specifically that I had already called the health department due to the fact that there was still a dangerous issue out at her property.
When had you called the health department?
I called them Monday night when I drove by the property and saw that concrete had been poured over the top of the sewage on the outside of the building.
Mr. Chance, but you were wrong, sir, because we've had 5 months since you were there, and no problem.
They've taken care of the symptoms, but the problem still exists. And the problem with the property that they have there is the drains underneath the footing were leaking substantially and had been that way for a long time.
What tests did you do, specifically, what tests did you do on the 17th when you were there to test that?
I've got phone records with me showing that I was on my phone with my service tech who was on the job.
What tests did you do? Not your technician. If you call the health department, I would say that you don't rely on a technician. You go out there yourself before you make the call.
I did.
The very next day. So I'm asking you, what tests did you personally do? Make sure you give me an answer that I'm going to be comfortable with, Mr. Chance.
I personally didn't do any tests.
That's what I thought. Now, did you ever give Miss Brown a quote of $45,000 to fix the problem?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
Did you ever say to Miss Brown that she should contact her insurance company?
I may have mentioned that, yes.
And that you should be there when the insurance company adjuster comes to look at the problem?
I advised her that that would be a good idea.
And are you telling me that you didn't give her a ballpark figure about what the problem would cost to rectify?
No, I didn't, Your Honor. I told her we needed to do tests to determine where the problem was at.
Oh, so if you're telling her you needed to do tests to determine where the problem was, why did you call the health department?
Well, we knew that there was a problem. We didn't know which bathroom was leaking or where the problem was at underneath the slab, because the whole area underneath the house was saturated with sewage.
What made you think, sir, that the whole area under the house was saturated with sewage?
Because my technician went into the other unit, the back unit, and ran a sink for 20 minutes, and the water proceeded to come up in the carpets in the front bedroom of the front unit, which indicates a backed up sewer main.
And you think that that just happened once, sir?
I went by the job on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Because Suzanne had agreed to meet me there Sunday night.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in front of the property. I did not go in either of the units, but I saw the sewage around the perimeter of the building. I sat there for maybe 5 minutes, and then Suzanne called me and said, I'm sorry, but something's come up. I can't meet you. I'll have to do it on Monday. So I left the property, but at that point, I was able to witness the wet sewage all the way around the outside footing, and it definitely was.
What made you think it was wet sewage, sir?
Based on the description that my technician gave me while he was in the home.
Mr. Chance, you want to know what I think, sir?
What?
I'm going to tell you what I think. I think that you were really annoyed with Miss Brown because she decided not to use you to fix this major problem and did you out of a really expensive job. Because he came out and said he ran a snake in the tub, the water went down, and she's had no more problems. 5 months later, your technician, Zippo, nothing, left the standing water in the bathtub and did nothing. What you did was you decided this was a big job. The entire foundation of this house had to be ripped up. Call your insurance company and let them know. All has to be redone. And then somebody else came and did it, and you were annoyed. And you didn't call the health department until after you were advised that she had gotten somebody else to fix what she perceived to be the problem, or what she was told by a professional was the problem. That's vindictive, sir. What else?
I actually ended up filing a police report against him because I became scared. It's like he turned into this psycho plumber. And
he was just annoyed. It was a $45,000 job that went out the window because you got somebody with a snake to fix the problem.
Judy, I have some evidence.
My friends call me by my first name. Now, what I don't understand, Mr. Chance, is I absolutely believe Mr. Howard when he says he went to the premises the next day, took a snake, put it in the bathtub, snaked out the bathtub, the water went down, and I absolutely believe Miss Jones when she says she has not had a problem since. What I don't understand is how come your technician went into the house, saw standing water, and didn't take a snake to try to get it to go down, yet went into another unit, a unit that they had not called to complain about, let the water run in that unit to come up with a story, instead of doing the first thing that I would do as a plumber and say, gee, I see this standing water. Let me see if I can get it to go down. Do you understand what I'm saying to you, Mr. Chance?
I understand.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all. You did the wrong thing. It's going to cost you.
Your Honor.
Parties are excused.
Were you divorced?
In May of 2005.
So you are living separately or not living separately?
Separately.
I let her stay in my house and she rents from me.
You don't live there?
No.
When was this incident that brings you to court?
July 23rd.
So it was after your divorce?
Right.
According to your complaint, Mr. Nielsen was at that time a boyfriend of yours.
Mm-hmm.
And the two of you had been out with some other friends. Subsequently, you invited a group of people back to your house, according to what I read. And you decided not to go back home. You decided to go and check in with your ex-husband. And it is your complaint that Mr. Nielsen, probably because he got angry, trashed the house you were living in. And since it's your ex-husband's house, he is a co-plaintiff. Is that about right?
Yes.
Who went out that evening?
It was me, Jim Nielsen, Jay, one of my friends, and Justin, another one of my friends. We ended up going to the bar, and then we all went to a restaurant to eat. And Chris was at the restaurant. And I called his phone, he called my phone, we were arguing.
What were you arguing about?
We just always argue about
Well, you were divorced already, so why were you arguing? Do you have children together?
No.
No.
Just because she still lives in my house and we still have contact with each other.
Why do you let her live in your house?
Because her and her son, I didn't want them to have to go out and find a place because it's more expensive.
Okay, how old a child do you have?
2.5.
Not your child?
No.
How long were you married?
Only like 5 months.
7 or 8 months.
Well, I'm not exactly sure because we got legally separated first.
We'll do 4 months.
All right, so you were arguing with Chris in July. On the 23rd of July, you were having dinner with a group of people. What happened next?
Justin, he was my roommate. I ended up having him and his friend drop me off at Chris's house.
Why are you laughing? What's funny?
Because I'm stupid.
Oh.
But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I got dropped off at his house, and Justin said that he was going back to his friend's house to watch some movies.
I let one of her friends also move in there to help her with the rent.
So Justin was your roommate
Right.
in your house?
Exactly.
Okay, so you went to Chris's house, and your roommate Justin dropped you off at Chris's house.
Right.
How long did you stay at Chris's house?
I stayed the night.
Where was your child at that point?
At his father's.
Does he live with you or his father?
He lives with me.
Okay, so you stayed the night with your ex-husband. And what happened when you got home?
My front porch railing was ripped off. The door frame was cracked all the way down the side, and the screws were out. The door was like, I don't know, it wouldn't shut. It was wide open. There was a huge hole in the wall. I have pictures.
I'd like to see the pictures.
There were eggs, ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, cereal, bread, milk, cough syrup, all over my walls, all over my rugs.
What makes you think that Jim here was responsible for this damage?
Well, he always wears a wife beater under any of his shirts.
What does he wear?
Oh, wife beater. It's like a tank top.
What is that called?
It's a wife beater, isn't it?
shirt.
Is that what the T-shirt says on it, or is that what it's called?
That's what it's called.
I never
believe.
heard that. Did you
Is
ever hear
what it's
that?
called?
Yep.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding.
A tank top shirt? Man wears a tank top shirt. It's called a wife beater?
It's just plain white. It's like a three-finger.
White or wife?
Wife.
Wife?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
So I found that in my house. It was covered in everything that was all over my floors and walls, and it was ripped off. And Jim, when he goes out and drinks and when he gets mad, he rips off his shirt and just throws it wherever. So I knew that was him. So I called him, and I told him, I said, Jim, I said, why'd you destroy my house? He's like, oh, I didn't. I'm like, you tell me you didn't destroy my house. I said, I found this. My entire house is trashed. He's like, I don't know. I didn't do it. I said, well, I'm calling the cops. So I called the police, and then after I was waiting for the police to show up, Chris called Jim back, and...
What happened when you called him back?
I called him up. I was angry. I knew it was obviously something to do with the fact that she left with me. So, and I knew it was probably him and his friends.
How long had you dated him before that evening?
3 weeks.
So,
Go ahead.
I called him up, and I was yelling. I'm like, "What's going on? Come into my house, destroy my house." He goes, first he said I didn't, then he goes, "Well, I was mad." He said something like, "I was drunk, I was mad," something along those lines. But he admitted to it. We called the police. He admitted that the police officer came over.
You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to read it. Thank you. All right, Jim, I'm with you.
I didn't do nothing. I woke up with stuff all over me.
You went back to her house?
Yeah, Justin had the key, and we were drinking there for a little bit, and I passed out. I wake up, I got all this stuff all over, eggs and stuff all over me. I didn't know what happened, holes in the wall and everything. And she's saying I admitted to it. I never admitted to nothing, to the cops at all.
You're John.
Yep.
Jim, John, and Justin. You were there that evening?
No, the following day I was there. They came to my apartment.
Who did?
I came to his apartment in the morning.
Justin's the one that brought it up to me. What I think is Justin had the key.
Listen, I don't care what you think. What you think is irrelevant. When you finish law school, you can get a job as a judge, and hopefully somebody will care about what you think. I just want you to tell me what you heard and what you saw. Go ahead.
I heard the house got trashed. And I took Justin back to the house, and I seen it.
Good. Thank you. Now, did you speak to the police?
Yeah, on the phone.
Listen to me. Do you know the police in Auburn, New York?
Yes.
You think they have it in for you?
No.
They don't know you. They don't care about you,
Yeah.
right? The police say that you said he was drunk and did some and all the damages.
I didn't say I paid for all the damages.
Okay, there we go. Oh, God, my life is so... What? Okay, what
I
did
said
you...
I would fix the damages.
Oh, okay.
If...
Oh, just a second. So you didn't say you would pay for the damage, you said you would fix the damage.
Yes.
So that's what you told them?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you acknowledge that you did some of the damage?
Yeah. Well, I didn't do all the damages,
I don't care whether you did some or all.
I'm not going to be, the one paying for all the damages, though, There's other people there.
Well, then this is what you have to do, Jim.
I call her and tell her I was going to come fix it, and she's like, oh, no, I can't do it now. I don't want you to fix it. I got somebody else to fix it.
What do you
I
do
bought
for-
all this stuff to
What
go
do you
fix
do
it.
for a living?
Huh? I got 2 jobs. I work at MKM, and I'm an electrician.
What's MKM?
Trucking business.
But you're not a carpenter.
No. I can still do it, though.
Are you a brain surgeon?
No.
You wouldn't try that, would you?
No.
I mean, if somebody said, you know, here's Bird, he needs a little brain surgery, you wouldn't say, I'm going to try. Not what I do, but I'll give it a try. Wouldn't do that. So they're entitled to have a professional carpenter fix that. They don't have to accept your offer to fix it yourself.
But the railing wasn't all broke. It came all off. The screws just fell out of it. That's all that happened.
When you commit a crime, sir, you don't get to choose your punishment.
Your Honor, I told him he could fix it, and we went a month of him not doing anything. And then I said, well, we'll just do a payment of $527, because that's what I estimated myself.
$527, an odd number to estimate.
But then...
Isn't that an odd number to estimate? But $527, no sense. No. Just $527.
Just figured, yeah, I know.
All right, let me see the estimate. Come on, I had enough. Let's go. Got other fish to fry today.
Yeah.
This is not an estimate. This is something that you prepared.
That's all the personal stuff.
Eggs, your food estimate, your eggs, a pudding, Jell-O, mayonnaise, bread, a gallon of milk. You know what that comes under the category of? You know what you said to me before when I asked you why you were smiling? Remember what you said? Because you were...
Okay. Stupid. All right.
Go buy your own eggs. That is pretty stupid. Why didn't you take pictures of the way the rest of the place looked? Hummer?
Because Chris went and bought a camera, and we were supposed to take pictures of the house while it was fully destroyed before I cleaned it. And he said, well, since the cops came and Jim admitted to doing it, then we don't need to take pictures, and would not take it out of his car to take pictures.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. All right. Did you get the place fixed?
We got everything cleaned up, but we didn't get it fixed yet. Not all the...
I cleaned the house. I didn't get anything fixed yet.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,500. That's all. Don't be stupid.
Are excused. You may stay.
Ladies knew each other for some time. You were friendly with each other. So why don't you tell me, Miss McKinney, when you allege Miss Thomas vandalized your car and what proof you have that she did so?
This happened on July 15th. She came to the club that I was at. She wanted to pull me out and fight me, but the doorman wouldn't let her get very far because you have to pay to get in. So when she saw that I wasn't going to come out and fight her, the witnesses say that...
Don't tell me what a witness says.
Okay. She smashed in my car windows.
Did you see her do that?
No, I did not.
Who's here that did see her do that?
No one.
Good. Did she ever admit to you that she did that?
No, she did not.
If there's no proof, Miss McKinney, there is no case. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now, let's get to your counterclaim.
It was on A16, right in front of my home.
You have any witnesses to your car being vandalized?
I saw them.
Well, tell me what you observed.
It was like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I had happened to glance outside my window, and I saw a female first with like a white rag and like a big white T-shirt and some shorts and like looking like a homeless person, just like hanging around. And so I didn't think much of it. And then a couple hours went by, and I still saw that person hanging around. And then I saw that person go to a white car. And then I looked closer, and I was like, that's Shoshana in the car, and that's her. That must be her mom, because her mom has glasses and she looks like her. So I blinked my alarm, like, you know, get away from my car, and then they ran away. So I went out there, and I saw the big scratch on my car, and I said, this lady done scratched my car. That's what she was doing when she was leaning on my vehicle. So a couple hours later, they came to my door. I opened the door, and I noticed that I recognized them face to face at that point in time. Mind you, we had already had a disagreement. Shoshana had felt threatened by me because we had got into an argument, and Shoshana did a lot of things to other people besides myself. She only stole property of mine, like jewelry and clothes and stuff like that. But I just, I asked you about my stuff, Shoshana, and you lied.
We're going to keep this real simple. Is what you're telling me that on the 16th of August, you looked outside and you saw somebody hanging around your car for a long time?
Leaning on my car.
For how long were they leaning on your car?
At least an hour, and then...
1 hour. And after that hour, when she got back in a car, you went outside and looked at the car and you saw a scratch on your car.
Right.
How big was this scratch?
I'll show you pictures, Your Honor. I have pictures.
I would love to see a picture.
Please do.
talking about this little scratch right here?
No, that's a big scratch, Your Honor.
You're talking about this scratch. It's all the same scratch, am I correct?
It's a very big scratch. You can see the close-up.
It's right above the tire. This mark right here. So you're telling me in the hour that you say she was standing in front of your car, intent on vandalizing your car, this is all the damage she did? Did you have anything to do with vandalizing her car?
No, Your Honor.
Did you have... Listen to me! Did you have anything to do with vandalizing her car?
No, I did not.
Did you have anything to do with vandalizing her car?
No.
You are her mother, is that correct?
Yes.
Stand up.
Okay.
Were you at her house on the 16th of August, 2005?
Yes.
What were you doing there?
I was there to serve papers. I was
How
there
many
for a
visits
restraining order.
Shh. How many visits did you make to her house?
One.
And when you made the visit one time, did you serve the papers?
Yes, I did.
You were there with your daughter?
She was about a half a block away once.
Listen, stop fighting with each other. I don't know what you're mad at each other about, but vandalizing each other's cars is not a very smart thing to do. If that's what you did, there's insufficient proof that that was done. Your case is dismissed. Your counterclaim is dismissed. Goodbye. Have a happy life.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
In Tucson, where he's working out in the field and he's staying in a motel, so he has limited access to clothes other than his work clothes.
Could you bring him a pair of long pants?
But I just...
I mean, he's not going to the beach.
I know, and I apologize. Okay. I just wasn't thinking.
Ms. Mellinger, this is your complaint. Mr. Scott is a friend of your son's. Are you wearing long pants?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, the two of them went off oil drilling something, got a job someplace, and they were rooming together. And according to you, you made a loan to Mr. Scott in the amount of $500 because he was short on cash. Stand up on your own 2 feet with your long pants, Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott says that you sent money, but you sent money at your son's request to your son. There was never an agreement by him to pay you back. That's your defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is your mother?
Yes, this is my mom, Charlotte.
Okay. Where did you go to work, Mr. Scott?
Well, at the time we were stationed in Nevada, and then the following hitch we were supposed to go down to Tucson.
And where is your home?
I live in Spokane, Washington.
How old are you?
20.
Were you paying your own way when you went to do this oil drilling?
Yes, I was.
You paid your own rent?
Not at home, no.
I'm talking about when you lived with him, when you were working. You were living together, correct, in a motel?
Correct.
Who was paying the bill?
He was.
Why?
Because I was unemployed before that, and we agreed that we would split the motel costs after I got paid, and I hadn't got paid until 2.5 weeks into the hitch.
Okay, and once you got paid, did you give him back the money?
No. Payments, and...
Am I scaring you? Am I scaring you?
No.
That's too bad. I must try harder. Now, you went to live with Dustin and you had an agreement, and your agreement with Dustin was, quite reasonably, that you would go to this place where you could both work and make a good living, make some money, and that you would split the room. But you didn't have any money.
Right.
So what Dustin does is he calls his mother and says, Mom, Kenny doesn't have any money. So I'm going to need some money to tide us over.
We talked about this agreement before we even left town. I said, I'm going to be broke, I'm going to not have any food, I'm going to need some help.
And?
He didn't help me with food or anything. He just paid for the hotel room, gave me a place to sleep.
Who paid the rest of the money? Your mother?
My mom had wired me some money for
How much did your mother wire you? No, don't look at her. I'm asking you, how much did your mother wire you?
$200.
About $200. And I'm sure your mother has proof of that, right?
Yes.
Right?
I Western Union the money and tried to get the receipt from them, and we didn't have time to get that.
Baloney. How much was the motel room?
Well, the first one we stayed at was a little higher price.
How much was the hotel room?
It's about $25 a night.
And how many nights were you there?
The first one we were there maybe about 4 or 5, and then we switched over because that hotel was run down.
Stand up. No, I can't stand to look at your knees. Over here. $25 a night. What was the second room?
Second room was the same. $25 a night, 25.
And how many nights in total were you there?
The second room?
Both rooms.
Both rooms.
Dustin?
Okay. The first hotel was about 5 days, and the second hotel about 21 days in the second hotel, something like that.
So you worked a total of 26 days?
Yes.
$650 plus tax, right? So it probably comes to close to $800. Did you, in fact, give Dustin back $400?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Why not?
Well, it was told to me that I owed his mother. I did not owe Dustin.
You owed somebody for half the motel room.
I realized that.
So my question is, why didn't you pay it to either Dustin or his mother?
I started to pay it to his mother.
You did?
She agreed that $100 a month would work, and I gave her $100
good.
cash.
Right.
And next thing I knew, I had a letter in the mail saying we're going to court.
Did he give you $100 in cash?
Yes, ma'am, he did give me $100 in cash.
Did you write 2 checks to Mrs. Mellinger
Yes, I did.
on an account that didn't have any money?
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't encourage him. He did the wrong thing. You're 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a debt in this world, you're supposed to repay it. You're not supposed to take money from strangers and then make them enemies by not paying them back. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
The quickest way to lose a friend is to loan them money. I want you to remember that forever.
I will.
If you're a good guy and you lend somebody money, you lend a friend money, there's only one thing that I know for certain. You're going to lose that friend and you're going to be the bad guy. That's a lesson your mother should have learned a long time ago.
Your Honor, I've told Dustin that time and time again, but I am the guilty one here.
Well, you're the guilty one.
I
Because
didn't
he's
do
a
what I
young man
normally do.
who has a mother. If he needed money, he should have called his mother.
Right.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400, that's all. But you are now back together and trying to reconcile.
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Blankenship was your girlfriend
Yes, ma'am.
for a brief period of time.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the complaint, although the complaint is written by your wife, it really has to do with you. So we're going to find out exactly what it's all about. You claim that Miss Blankenship damaged a truck. It was a truck that belonged to you. She hit a mailbox or something with it, is that right?
Yes.
And you want her to pay for the damages to that truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Blankenship says that she did, in fact, have an accident with the truck, hit the mailbox, there was some minor damage, she told you about it, and at some point you told her to forget about it because you had moved her in with her children or child?
My child.
With her child into another house that you owned, and she relocated because you were together. Then when you decided to go back to your wife, she was told that she had to vacate the property immediately.
She had exactly a week and a half to
A week.
clear the vacancy.
And the suggestion is because you told her she had to get out of the house within a week, you told her to just forget about the damage to the truck. When were you divorced, Mr. Shanks?
I was getting ready to go through the divorce in June 2005.
When did you meet Miss Blankenship?
About the same time, about June.
Okay. And when did you purchase the second house?
Obtained the house around June, July, in between there.
And when did Miss Blankenship move into the house with her daughter?
When the house closed, and it was in August.
And that was at your suggestion?
Well,
You were together?
yes, but, Your Honor, it was more or less where she wanted to more or less move in. You know, she asked me to move in, and the stipulation was she was supposed to obtain the home, take care of everything while I was gone since I'm an over-the-road truck driver, and she was going to start up a daycare with herself and her witness.
So what you're saying is she moved into the house, but she was supposed to pay all the bills in the house?
No.
From the daycare?
No, it was more or less like she wanted to start up the daycare.
Well, what did that have to do with you, Mr. Shanks?
Well, really, it doesn't, Your Honor.
Well, so then I'm not interested in it if it doesn't have anything to do with you. Okay, so she moved into the house, and when you weren't on the road in your truck, where did you stay?
I only stayed in that home maybe one night.
With her?
Yes, one night.
And you shared a room?
Yes.
Before she moved into the house, where was she living?
She was living in an apartment complex,
How many nights did you spend there?
maybe 2 at the most, ma'am.
And when you stayed there, did you share a room?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you purchased this new house, was it the idea that you would be living there as a family when you weren't on the road?
No, ma'am.
What was the idea of the new house, sir?
The idea of the new home is I wanted to move away from my old home state where I used to live at, and I just wanted to start over myself. I mean, the only reason I let Miss Blankenship move in was the idea of her wanting to start up the daycare. And
Mr.
also,
Shanks, you're having second thoughts about this, sir, because of the lady standing next to you. But your conversation to me doesn't make sense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't make sense that you bought another house in another area and Miss Blankenship was moving in there to start a daycare center. That doesn't make sense, sir. I haven't even asked her anything. So don't try to pull my leg. I don't like it. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
If you had second thoughts about Miss Blankenship and your relationship and you wanted to go home to your wife, that's fine. But don't lie. I don't like it. Now let's get back to the truck. At the time that Miss Blankenship damaged the truck, she called you. Where were you?
I was out on the road.
And what did she tell you?
That the truck was hit by the mailbox.
No, she didn't say that at all. Don't be a wise guy. What did she tell you?
She told me she hit the mailbox.
That she hit the mailbox, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she apologize?
Yes, she was very apologetic to it, yes.
Now, at that time, had you gone back to your wife yet?
No.
Did you tell her that you were thinking about going back to your wife?
No.
Had you told her that she had to move her property out?
I told her, when I told her to move out the property, and this is going to bring up the daycare again, that she wasn't getting the daycare going, and the home wasn't being taken care of.
When she used your truck, what was she using it for?
In the moving process, I think.
So you were told her to move, in or out?
It was, I'm pretty sure it was in, ma'am.
Were you moving in or out when you were using the truck?
Actually, when I wrecked the truck, he was in town. He asked me to go get jumper cables, I think it was, so he could get his truck jumped because the batteries went dead. So he was in town.
Where was he in town?
He was over by the apartment complex that I used to live at, and I had already moved into the home.
Okay. So that was sometime in August?
Yes.
Now, after you had this problem with the truck, you went into a mailbox.
Right.
Did he ever spend the night with you in the house again?
Yes.
How many times?
I think he was there one more night, and then he left.
After the damage to the truck?
After the damage to the pickup.
Now, did you see the damage to the truck, Mr. Shanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was the truck when you saw it?
I'm pretty sure it was at the apartment complex, ma'am.
Apartment complex or the house?
I think it was at the apartment complex.
So it was drivable?
Yes, it was drivable.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding your seeing it at the apartment complex, sir.
I was,
What were you doing there? What were you doing there?
I would think I was getting ready to leave, but I can't recollect it.
What?
In the truck, in my semi.
You mean getting ready to leave her apartment?
Yes. The semi was parked at the apartment.
At her apartment?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did you say to Miss Blankenship, sir, when she told you that she had had this accident with the truck, and you saw the truck, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you say?
I told her, I said, it needs to be replaced, you need to get it fixed, and it needs to be done. I mean, I was really upset about my truck being wrecked.
Well, it wasn't wrecked, sir, because you said you saw it at the apartment complex. So it wasn't wrecked, it was drivable.
Yes, it was drivable, but the way them Dodges are set up and everything, they've got plastic and little sheet metal and all that stuff on them anymore, and just hitting the mailbox did do a lot of damage to the front of that truck. I mean, it's very noticeable.
You want to show me a picture of it, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
There's also pictures of the mailbox post and at the house where the mailbox sits.
Truck isn't wrecked, sir. It's got a little damage on it. There's some bumper scratches. Big deal. You see what your problem is, sir? First, you moved her in, moved her out of her apartment with her child into a house that you had purchased. And the plan was for you to live there when you weren't on the road. That was the plan. I mean, that's clear. There's no question about that. Then you decide to get back with your wife. And your wife is irritated that the truck is damaged. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's too bad. What are you mad at her for?
I'm not, ma'am.
Well, you shouldn't be. He's the one who disrupted her life. Moved her out of her apartment into a house and then told her she had to move because he was going back with you. Don't you see who the villain here is? It's not her. Don't you get it? Did I have to explain that to you? No. So why are you here? Over a couple of $100 damage to a truck? He ruined her life. That's not her fault. That's probably yours too. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe her when she says that the reason she was moving your truck was because you asked her to go get jumper cables with your truck.
I can't remember that far back, Your Honor.
Well, if you can't remember, she does.
I know the truck was driven without my permission.
That's not true. If you asked her to go get jumper cables, she used your truck. She was living in your house. You were sleeping with her. You had an intimate relationship. Get over it. You made a mistake. And grow up. Now, what stuff did she leave behind in the house?
I've got pictures of the furniture.
And where is the furniture that she left behind?
Is that
Take your hands out of your pockets.
It's at the address of the home in St. Charles.
Where do you want him to deliver your property? He's going to deliver it. He caused the problem, right?
Yes, ma'am.
To Mary's apartment. Miss Kelly's apartment.
All of her property goes back to her. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And you make sure that it gets there. It's your responsibility. You had a change of heart, sir. You have to behave like a grown-up. Just because you act irresponsibly most of the time with the women in your life doesn't mean you're going to act irresponsibly here. I mean, I read the papers. You relocated this lady and her child with a promise that you were going to have a life together, that she was going to start a business in the home. And because you had a change of heart, you told her, sorry, you have to move. Now, you moved once, now you have to move again. Where did you move to? Back to the complex?
No, I had lost my apartment because of him promising we were going to have a life together.
Where are you living now?
I've relocated closer to home, closer to my parents.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I say something?
Yes.
She spent 2 nights in her car because she had nowhere to go.
My daughter stayed with a friend because I did not want to be a burden on anyone else. I let my daughter stay so she would not be without.
How old is she?
She's 11. She was 10 at the time.
You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
She gets all of her property back. Make sure that that happens, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care of the truck yourself. It's the least you could do. And tell your wife to get over it. You got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
Rachel Rhodes is suing her ex-boyfriend, Eric Nelson, for the return of payments and repair costs for a vehicle he financed. Eric says the car was repossessed because Rachel missed payments.
Miss Rose, Mr. Nelson is a former boyfriend of yours.
Correct.
And he financed a car. He was responsible for the payments on the car, but it was your car.
Correct.
The agreement was you were to make the payments on the car. When the car was paid off, it would be yours.
Correct.
Well, what happened is that you missed some payments on the car. Couple. 2, maybe 3. And the car was repossessed by the company. Is that right so far?
So far, I made a payment. I had placed it on the Dropbox.
I don't want to hear that you made the payment. You placed it on the Dropbox. They didn't cash the check, but then you missed 2 more payments. You missed payments, correct?
Yes.
And the car was repossessed. You called up the company, and the company said, well, if you make up all the payments that you missed, we'll give you the car back. You were prepared to make up the payments, right?
Correct.
But Mr. Nelson says, I'm not going to sign off on you getting the car back because I don't trust that you're going to continue to make the payments on the car. Let them take back the car. I'll make up the missed payments, and I just want this off my record so I don't have to worry about it anymore. So you're suing him for not making it easy for you to get the car back from the company. That's your lawsuit?
Yes.
Lawsuit, Ms. Rhodes.
Well, Your Honor, I have the paperwork pertaining to the money order that I had purchased and I had put in the Dropbox. After the 29th of December, I had called and checked the status of the money order. The money order had not been cashed.
Ms. Rhodes, you don't seem to get me. After you had this alleged mishap with a money order that you allegedly put in a Dropbox at the car company, which they didn't cash, you then missed 2 more payments.
Ma'am, the payment was for, the money order was for $250.
You then missed, according to your own statement, 2 more payments because you had trouble. Is that correct?
No, it's not correct.
Well, that's what you wrote here. That's what you wrote here. How many more months of payments did you miss?
I only missed, to my knowledge, I missed 3 payments, which is a month worth of payments.
You missed 3 payments, and the car was repossessed.
That's correct, but as far as I know, I thought the payments were current.
Well, they weren't current, and you have no cause of action against Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson doesn't have to make it easy for you to get your car back from the company. That's not his responsibility. Your responsibility is to see to it that the payments are made on time, and they are made to the right place, and to check and see if they were cashed, and to check and see that his credit is not at risk. That's your job. He was being very nice to you, but things transpired, which we'll get to in a moment, because you have a counterclaim that suggested to him that you were not particularly a trustworthy person. So he wasn't going to make it easy for you to get the car back, and he has no legal obligation to do that. And this is, of course, a court of law. And in a court of law, he is not under legal obligation to get you your car back from the finance company after you missed. I don't care if you missed 1 payment. According to you, you missed 3.
Well, can I say this?
Sure.
If I wasn't such a trustworthy person, I was able to pay the money to get the car back, but he didn't want to do that. But he told me that I can give him the $500 so that I can drive another car of his that he had parked.
Well, let me tell you why he thinks that you're not particularly a trustworthy person. He has a counterclaim for the missed payments that he had to make up.
Yes, ma'am.
But more importantly, his counterclaim asks for money for a paternity test because you had a child, she believed to be his child. He put his name on the child's birth certificate. He paid child support? I don't know whether he saw the child regularly.
He paid child support? No.
Did you pay any child support, sir, to her?
No, ma'am, I haven't paid to her because I have a lawyer at this time.
Were you living together when the child was born?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you the child was yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And you believed her?
Yes, ma'am.
And you took a paternity test?
Yes, ma'am.
And the paternity test said the child could not have been yours?
0% probability.
That's why he doesn't trust you.
Okay. Can I say this? Yes. He took a paternity test. I didn't know nothing about the paternity test. I wasn't there when he swabbed my daughter's mouth. I don't know. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he could have, I don't know.
He could have. But I think you certainly have to go to court to find out. Have you been to court yet?
Yes, we've been to court.
And what happened when you went to court?
We went to court, and by him signing the paternity affidavit, they stated that if it is his child or if it's not his child, that he needs to pay
child support. So the court where you are said Mr. Nelson is out of luck because he was told that the child was his by you, and because he signed the affidavit of paternity based on what you told him, he's going to pay child support whether the child is his or not. That's what you just told me.
I mean, that's what they said.
That's what you just told me that he was told.
Yes.
That wouldn't make me happy.
No.
That wouldn't make me believe that you are a particularly trustworthy person. This was not a court-ordered blood test, is that right?
No, ma'am.
You took the child yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you have to proceed through the courts. You hired an attorney. That's the first smart thing that you did.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And do you have a court date?
Yes, I do.
When?
My lawyer has gotten us a court date to go back to court on May the 15th, so we could rescind the paternity affidavit that was already filed against
Fine.
me.
Well, at that point, Ms. Rhodes, the baby, as well as you, will be sent to a laboratory to take a paternity test. And at that time, with all three parties present, the court will at least be satisfied that the test is done properly. Ms. Rhodes at this point knows that she's on notice, that if there is a possibility that you are not the biological father of this child, that that is not a good thing. So I suggest you start searching in memory to figure out if there's any possibility that he's not the father.
Okay.
Got it?
Got it.
Good. So you have no cause of action against him for the car. He doesn't have to assist you in getting the car back from the finance company. If you can convince them to give the car to you, that's super. And if you can't, you shouldn't have missed the payments which caused it to be repossessed. Now, the defendant's counterclaim is granted in the amount of $275, not for the paternity test, sir, because the paternity test was not an authorized test and it was not done by the courts. If you had been forced to pay for a paternity test through the courts, I might have entertained your application if it was done with all three parties present. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. $275 on the counterclaim. Your claim is dismissed, Miss Rose. Girl, you have a boy. They're dating each other.
Yes.
This is your complaint. You allowed your daughter, this young lady right here, to use your car. She was using your car one day to take Miss DeSimone around to do some chores.
Correct.
And that wouldn't have bothered you necessarily because she's the mother of the boyfriend, right? But then Miss DeSimone asked if she could borrow the car herself because she wanted to go food shopping, right?
Yes,
Food
to pick up a couple items.
And your daughter allowed her to drive the car. The car was damaged. You want Miss DeSimone to pay for the damage to the car.
Absolutely.
Miss DeSimone says she took the car, went into Food Town. While she was in Food Town, somebody must have hit your car.
Correct.
Right?
That is correct.
So it's not her fault. That's what you're saying.
That's correct.
We'll see. What year is your car?
It's a 1995 Camry.
How long have you had it?
Approximately a year.
So you bought it secondhand?
Yes, ma'am.
How many accidents have you had?
I've had one other one where I was hit from behind at a red light.
So you had a rear end damage to the car?
Mm.
Bumper or?
Bumper.
Bumper. Only the bumper?
Only the bumper.
Was the car fixed?
No.
On September 6th, what kind of damage was done to your car?
It would be the right quarter panel.
Do you have a photograph?
Absolutely.
I'd like to see it, please.
Here's before and after.
Ooh. That's a bad one. Okay. So, you still dating each other?
Yes.
Okay, this is not going to be painful. Believe me. We're going to use the but-for rule, Miss DeSimone.
Okay.
But for the fact that you borrowed the car and took it to Food Town to go shopping, this wouldn't have happened. Unfortunately, you took the car. You didn't have her permission to drive the car. You had her daughter's permission to drive the car.
Actually, there was a couple things that happened prior to that. While I was in the car with her daughter, it was a very rainy day.
her daughter was driving the car. The car was hydroplaning a lot, and she became very nervous and asked if she pulled over if I would drive. I said, no problem, if it's safer. We completed our mission. We did proceed home. Asked if she didn't mind if I ran back out to just pick up a couple items at the food town. That's when all that began, and the police report states differently, if you'd like to see it, that he even stated, the police officer, that he saw prior damage on the car.
You mean this prior damage?
No, other damage.
We're not talking about other damage. We're talking about this damage.
But she's saying that there was only damage to the bumper, and according to this, it states that there was...
What difference does it make? This damage was not on the car, madam, when you borrowed it.
No.
That's all I'm talking
I don't
about.
believe so.
I am only talking about, well, you don't miss this damage.
No.
Ma'am,
No, you don't have to speak. It was going to be easy. Now it's not so easy. For the fact that you borrowed the car, took it to Food Town, the car would have been parked in her driveway. If the car was parked in her driveway, the same driver that hit her car from Food Town would have had to look for it.
Can I please say
Stop.
something?
Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
And she's taking your word for the fact that you don't know how this accident happened. But it looks as if she had hit somebody else's car, unless she, I don't know how you can contort yourself to do this kind of a damage to somebody else's car. But you had the car, but for the fact that you borrowed the car, it wouldn't have had this kind of damage.
Correct.
This damage. Good. Then we don't have a problem. What do you want?
Okay. She just got done stating that the car was hydroplaning earlier, okay?
It doesn't make any difference.
Excuse me. They made it home safely. She has a Jeep Cherokee parked in the same parking lot that she could have used her own vehicle to go to the store. There is no reason to take my little car back out.
Let me ask you this question. Now you're getting angry, and you already won. So you have to go, find your center.
I've been trying to do a lot of it. I've been trying to find a lot of my center.
And say, it's over.
But I would have never asked her son to use her car.
Listen to me. It's a car. She's responsible. Done. Romeo and Juliet here are going to leave here happy. I suggest you do the same. How much did it cost to fix your car?
The estimate is $1687.98.
That's a pretty cheap estimate for this kind of damage.
I think so.
It is. Anything else? Romeo, Juliet. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $1687.98. Thank you. That's it. You knew the defendant from high school. You weren't friends, but you knew her from high school. And it is your claim that she vandalized your car. She vandalized your car by kicking it with you in it. Correct. This was after some sort of an altercation at a place where she works. The defendant says that if she touched your car or came into contact with your car, it was because you were trying to run her over. And if there was any damage to your car, it was as a result of that. So, how long ago did you graduate from high school?
2004.
And you?
2004, ma'am.
And you weren't friends?
No.
Were you enemies?
Not really. We just didn't really talk.
Didn't talk, didn't care for each other, so you weren't friends, you weren't enemies, you just knew each other?
Yes.
When did this incident happen with your car?
November 10th, 2005.
Where?
In Crinkles, which is her parents' store.
Crinkles?
Yeah.
What kind of a store is it?
It's like a type 7-Eleven type store.
Okay, so tell me what happened on November 10th.
Me and my boyfriend, we went to the store, I believe to get cigarettes.
To the store that her parents owned?
Yeah, which I didn't even know that her parents owned the store. So we went in, I went in with him to buy the cigarettes. I knew the guy at the cash register, so I was talking to him.
Who was that?
I believe his name was Dan. I knew him from like high school. Like I hadn't seen him in years. And then I just told him that I was gonna go sit in the car because there was a line to listen to music. So I went in the car.
And?
He was in the store and she came over.
Stand up, sir.
Yes.
Your last name is?
Lord, L-O-R-D.
Okay, so you were standing on line?
Yes.
She went back to sit in the car?
Yes.
What happened in the store?
I was standing in line, and she had came up to the register talking to the guy that she had said hello to, Dan, I believe. When she started talking, she started saying a lot of things about her. I don't want her in my store, like very bad verbal things, and she didn't know I was with her.
What kind?
Can I say it on TV? Just, I don't want that in my store, or this and that. I don't, you know, she shouldn't be here. If she ever comes in again, I'm going to kick her. Stuff like that. And I basically, she didn't know I was with her, and I was in the back of the line. And then eventually I was like, do you speak to all your customers like that? And then she basically, you know, started yelling at me, and we got into an argument.
Well, what did she say to you?
She was just like, who are you? And I said, well, I'm Holly Corbella's boyfriend. And she's like, yeah, well, she's like, you can get out of my store, too. I said, oh, this is your store? And she's like, yeah, it's my store. I said, you own this store, and this is how you respect your customers, by yelling like that.
Okay, so you had a verbal altercation with this young lady.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Basically, it kept going on, and then the guy at the register tried calming her down, calming me down, because we were both arguing, and it started to come outside. She came out to me outside, right in the front
Did you
door.
leave?
Yes, I left.
Did you pay for your cigarettes?
Yes.
Paid for your cigarettes and you walked out?
Yes.
Okay. Now, he's paid for his cigarettes. Is that right, Miss Gray?
No, ma'am.
He didn't pay?
No, ma'am. He
Really?
didn't purchase anything that night, ma'am, and if I may, I will
Just
start...
a second. So
Okay.
he didn't purchase anything. Are you saying you didn't walk out with your cigarettes?
I purchased a 6-pack of Heineken and a pack of cigarettes, Marlboro, cash.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Miss Gray. I believe him.
Okay. Well,
I believe that he waited online because he wasn't leaving without those cigarettes and he wasn't leaving without the beer. So I believe...
Well, why would anybody,
just
right?
a second. Just a second. Because he's waited online, he's already argued with you, so he may have been disgusted with your store, but he wasn't leaving without his items. So I believe he bought them and he paid for them.
Okay.
Got it?
Got it.
Now, you want to tell me what problem you had with Miss Corbella?
Well, that night, ma'am, Miss Corbella had walked into the food side of my store, and her boyfriend had walked into the liquor side of my store. Holly seen me. She looked directly in my eyes. I didn't say anything out loud to where any customers heard anything, and I pulled my brother aside, who is the manager, and I said, I don't want her in this store. I don't trust her. I've had altercations with her from stealing and hearing...
I thought you said that you didn't have any bad contact with her.
No, I don't.
So what do you mean?
Because my friend has gotten in trouble from her stealing, whatever.
What do you mean your friend's gotten into trouble with her from stealing?
We were never friends, never liked each other. We had this one friend that was friends with me and friends with her.
Yes.
My friend that was also friends with both of us got in trouble with her stealing.
Just a second. So your friend was arrested for stealing, for theft?
Yes.
And according to you, she was with this friend when she got arrested for stealing?
Yes.
Okay. Was she arrested for stealing?
No.
Just your friend was arrested for stealing?
With her, yes.
No. Listen to me.
Yes, she wasn't arrested. No, yes, my friend was arrested.
Just your friend was arrested for stealing. Now, he's on his way out the door. Why did you follow him out the door? Look at me.
I followed him out the door because the altercation that happened inside my parents' store, he left mad, and she actually was inside the store when the fighting was going on. So she heard everything and she seen everything. I followed him out of this store because my car was in the parking lot, and I didn't want anything happening to my car, anything in the parking lot, because
now
they threatened me.
No, listen to me. Listen to me very carefully. There was a line when Mr. Lord was waiting to pay for his cigarettes and his beer, which means there were other customers in the store.
Right.
How many other customers would you say were in the store?
There were only about 3, ma'am.
And is your store a standalone store, or are there other stores in a shopping mall? Or
It's a standalone, ma'am.
how many people were in the store after Mr. Lord left the store?
The same 3, ma'am.
So that there were at least 3 other cars out there. Is
Right.
that right? Listen to me carefully. Plus your car, right?
Plus my car, yes.
And you hadn't seen Miss Corbella since high school, right? And you never met Mr. Lord, right?
Right.
So how do they know which is your car and which is a car
Holly
that
Corbella
belongs?
knows well what my car looks like. I've had the same car since high school, and she's seen my car outside her friend's car and me get into it a couple of times and drive away.
Great.
So
Did she
knows-
just listen to me? Did she ever hurt your car before?
We've never had an altercation.
Just listen to me. Did she ever hurt your car
ma'am.
before?
No.
What happened when she followed you outside?
We were still arguing. She told me, you know, I'm going to kick her if she doesn't leave. So I walked up into the car. As I got in the car, no lie, the size of her, I was surprised how strong she came at the car and kicked the car in right where I was. As I closed the door, she came and kicked it. There was no running over her. Then she even went in front of the car as we were leaving. And Holly was all nervous, so she was trying to get around her. The car was already kicked.
You have a picture of the car?
Yes.
I'd like to see
I have
it,
a couple
please.
pictures, actually.
Were you there, sir?
I was outside smoking a cigarette, Your Honor.
I don't remember.
Oh, this is a kick, Miss Gray. This is a kick, my dear.
This is not a kick.
Yeah, this is a kick, Miss Hot Temper.
Okay.
This is a kick. This is not I fell into your car accident. This is a kick. Does this look like I fell into the car accidentally, or does this look like somebody kicked it?
It was a running
fell into
kick.
it several times.
Looks like it fell into it several times. Got a hot temper, madam. You can't do that. You can't
I'm sorry,
vandalize
ma'am.
somebody
if
else's
somebody
car.
comes into my family business, he had nothing to do with what I said to her because he didn't even hear me.
What does that have to do with kicking his car?
He wanted to throw a beer case at me over my family counter is what the first threat was. And then, yes, I did go outside to make sure everything was okay in the parking lot. He did not get directly in the car. He stood in my face threatening me to where the point my brother had to come outside and separate us.
Listen to me. What does that have to do with kicking her car?
I didn't kick her car, ma'am.
You did.
I flew backwards. No, I did not.
You don't want to say anything, do you?
I'll say something if you want me to.
Do I want you to? No. Could I have an estimate, please, to fix this car where Miss Hot Temper kicked your car?
And ma'am,
your parents leave you in charge of that business often?
Actually, I'm not in charge, ma'am.
Well, it's good that at least they have some brains. They don't leave you in charge. But does somebody monitor the two of you in that store?
He doesn't work there, ma'am. He was waiting for me to get off.
They don't trust you to work in the store. They trust her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $940. That's all. Step out. Tito, what?
Thank you.